IB Nation, what's up? Welcome back to the Irish Breakdown Podcast, a little post-game edition as Notre Dame dominates the University of Southern California Trojans 48-20 at home. Very fun, interesting, kind of bizarre game in a lot of instances. The defense obviously showed out today, as well as the special teams. Offense did what they had to do. And we'll talk about everything that we saw tonight in a big victory. And we'll go offense, we'll go defense, we'll go game balls. We'll get the
We're going to go
chat.
defense first this game.
Yeah,
you guys are going to love
say.
it. We're going to go defense first in this game because, yeah. But, man.
Well, Brian, it was electric, man. I'm literally texting recruits now, just like about the electricity that was in the air, in the atmosphere of that game. And obviously you were firsthand, got to experience all of it. And I mean, it was a game, I think, before we like break down the analysis of it, it was a game Notre Dame needed, right? We've talked about that all week. They needed this game. I literally was on the phone with you about 2 hours before kickoff. I'm just like, dude, we need this one, right? Like as a fan base, as a team, as a just community, Notre Dame needed this football game after what happened last week against Louisville. And I know that some people are going to be super negative because they always are, but at the end of the day, Notre Dame needed this one, and they had their rival, their biggest rival, come into town, and Notre Dame dominate them, man. 4-touchdown victory, which, if you're not excited right now, one, you need to get out of the chat. Two, you need to get like a pulse check, man.
You got to check yourself,
now.
man.
It's USC, baby.
Look,
it's USC.
Sadie's
How can we not be
excited? Look at this, Ryan. Even Sadie's excited. You know what I mean? Like Sadie and Reader down here. So the dogs are kind of running in and out because I need to leave the door open because Angela, I just talked to Angela. She's still stuck on the field because they stormed the field at the end and she's like pinned up against the wall. She can't get out. So
it probably wasn't the smartest thing in the world to be texting some recruits right now because they're also probably stuck in the storming of the field. So probably not the best time to bother them.
You know, Ryan, we talked a lot about during the week, like if you lose this game, here's what it means. But then we countered with, if you win this game, here's what it means. And I came into the game saying, look, you just got to win, Ryan. You just got to find a way to win. It doesn't matter. I don't care if it's ugly. You just got to win. And then go in, because we talked about this. You go into the bye week, you rest up, you do some self-scouting because it's hard to self-scout in the middle of the season when you're just constantly just turning over ball games and game plans. And finish strong, 10-2. It's not the finish that, maybe we hope for, you want to be all that stuff is true, right? But that's, you needed to get this win, right? Can't change the past. You need to get this win and then finish the year strong. And then that's progressing in the right direction. And I thought it would be a close game, but I said something on Thursday. I said, it wouldn't shock me if Notre Dame came out and blew them out. But I said to you on the phone, I didn't see it this way. I didn't see it being a blowout like this. I thought it was going to be a shootout where Notre Dame just can't be stopped on offense. The light goes on and, Caleb does his thing and puts up his 31 or 35 and Notre Dame just hangs a 50-something spot on USC. I didn't see it coming this way. And I think the way that the game went where it was the perfect it was perfect for what Notre Dame needed, because one of the most frustrating things from the last 2 weeks is that Notre Dame wasn't the more physical team. It's not that they weren't competing and all that, but they got beat in the trenches the last 2 weeks. And in this game, and even offensively, we'll get into this a little bit, but like just the defensive performance, Ryan, that was a physical beatdown of USC. Last year, you could argue that Caleb Williams won the Heisman Trophy against Notre Dame. And I'm going to say right now, barring just some collapses from some other quarterbacks, Notre Dame just prevented him from getting a repeat.
I would say so.
Because they just spanked him on national TV and just kind of dominated him throughout the week. So, to me, I just kind of I wasn't shocked that it was going to be a blowout, but I really did not see this coming because you and I broke it down, right? It's like this you look at USC outside of Caleb Williams, they're not a great team.
No.
And Notre Dame, but Notre Dame had to play well to have the success that they had, and boy did they. But that's the biggest thing for me, Ryan, is it's not that they won. It's not even the margin. This was a team that was emotionally on the ropes. This was a team that last week I said before the game, I don't feel good about this. Just the energy level, the emotion, they were worn out. They played 7 games in a row, all this kind of stuff. And we said on Tuesday, Ryan, we're going to find out what kind of heart and what kind of character this football team has. And we found out tonight. We found out in a big, big way because you could tell from jump, Ryan, that this team, whether or not they were going to win or not, you said it. You and I talked about on the way to the game. We're going to know by the end of the first quarter if Notre Dame came to play tonight. You even said you actually went further. You said we're going to know after the first couple series.
Oh well, after the first interception and they punched it in, I'm like, okay, Notre Dame came. They were there, right? Like they came to play. It's not necessarily a prediction of Notre Dame's going to win the football game, but I knew that they were mentally and emotionally in the game because Brian last week, like, very honest. That shook my confidence because that was that was the first time under Marcus Freeman where I was like, I don't know if that team wanted to be there. Like, I don't know if they wanted to play. It didn't seem like they had emotion. It didn't seem like they had energy against Louisville. It was the weirdest, most bizarre game of like that I've seen under the Marcus Freeman era. Because even when they've lost in the past to Ohio State the last 2 years and USC last year, there was never a question of like, did they want to be there and did they want to compete? I never once thought that, right? Last week, thought that a little bit. So I was very curious of this game because I felt like it could have went 2 different ways. One, they came out and they did something like this, right? Where they were just like, they were juiced and they were ready. And I'm not talking about the scoreboard for a second. I'm talking about just the energy. The other side is that they come out flat and you're just like, I don't know if this team is mentally here anymore. Like, I don't know if they're there.
Yeah.
And this was a game of resiliency for me. One, flip the script from last week. You come out and get a big victory. 2, there were multiple times in this football game where I was like, uh-oh, USC might have a shot here. They might be able to gain some momentum here. And Notre Dame closed the door every single time and shut it off. They shut it off. They shut the momentum down. They said, nope, not today. This is not going to be your day.
I felt twice, Ryan. Like, look, overall, we'll talk about this. We'll get to the offense. It was not a great performance from the offense, but it was better than I think maybe some people are giving it credit for. It was kind of in the middle for me. I've got some complaints, and we'll break some of that stuff down tomorrow. And the special teams had some boneheaded mistakes in the game. You know, you give up the long return. You know, you have a running into the kicker situation. And even the defense stole the show tonight, right? It did.
Yep.
But in 2 situations, the offense and special teams stepped up to basically eliminate any chance that USC had to win the game. And, you know, you talk about the offense and the issues that they had. But, you know, because Ryan, I'm just sitting there thinking like, but you can't keep shutting this dude down. Like, you just can't. You can't keep, you know, you let him hang around too long and he's going to make some plays, right? And like you said, that 24-13, and there were still like 7 minutes left in the third quarter. You're like, bro, he's 2 possessions away in this offense laying an egg. And they came out that next drive and they ran. And they weren't getting like great yards. It was like, I'm looking at 7-4-3. They got 0, but you know, they had a nice second down conversion. And then they take a deep shot and Chris Tyree it wasn't even a good route. He just was like, no, I'm way faster than you. And Sam finally threw the ball down the field. And you get a touchdown, right? So the offense answered. And then previously, you know, you go to the first half, and again, did the offense play well tonight? No. But you go to the first half, and they're up 17-3. You get an interception from Benjamin Morrison. Guys, against this offense scoring 51 points a game with the best player in college football at quarterback, a 17-3 lead is nothing.
Nothing.
And first play, they take a deep shot. You get the ball and they do that. Then they kind of get that 31-20. And again, I'm still thinking, I'm like, you know, like I feel like this game is over, but there's still like man, there's a lot of time left. And 18,
Brian, I thought at that point, though, when it was 31-20, I was like, Notre Dame's going to win this game, but it's going to be like 31-28 at the end or something like that. You know what I mean?
Boom, special teams answers with a touchdown. So, like, even though this was a defensive night, Ryan, and we're going to get into the defense here in a little bit and kind of break it down, kind of overall and what we saw from both sides of the ball. We're going to hand out some game balls. The reality is other parts of the team didn't play as well tonight, but when they needed to, they made plays. That's what a good team is supposed to do, right? That's what we didn't see last week. And twice this year, I'll give Marcus Freeman credit because I'm frustrated with certain things, and there's going to be some stuff that does in the bye week and in the offseason and things like that. But here's the deal. They lost to Louisville or Ohio State, and the next week they won on the exact same way. But flipped it. Last week they lost to Louisville. The defense is playing as well as it possibly can for the first half of the game, right? 7 points at halftime. They're forcing turnovers. Special teams, he made some field goals. Great. But they didn't really make any plays. The offense didn't make any plays. You come back this week and you stepped up and made plays, right? And that's a team win. That's a team win, Ryan. So a part of your team played phenomenal football, and the other parts played complimentary football, and that's why Notre Dame tonight just beat the number 10 team in the country. Second top 10 win for Marcus Freeman, by the way, and they were both blowouts. And this game felt a lot like the Clemson game. Like the offense just did what they needed to do. The special teams made a big play, right? I mean, you had a 13-yard touchdown drive. You had a 2-yard touchdown drive, right? It was a lot like last year's game, and they just kept pouring it on and pouring it on. And man, it felt good, Ryan. It did. And they needed this. This team desperately needed this win. And I will even go a little further, Ryan. They needed this win the way they got it. Not the 48-20, but the emotional, the intensity, hey, our backs are against the wall and we came out swinging. I love that.
And for the future sake, right? Like all the recruits on campus as well. You're vibing. I mean, you had a lot of young guys step up today too, which we'll talk about the defense here in a second, right? Where we're talking about Boubacar Traore and Jalen Sneed making some key plays down the stretch. I mean, the future's bright, folks. Like I think it is, right? I mean, we'll see what's going to happen moving forward and hopefully, into the promised land sometime soon. But ultimately, there's a lot of talent on this football team. There was resiliency tonight, which I thought was the biggest takeaway for me, just of overall. And you smacked a team that you hate, right? Like someone texted me like when it was 48-20, and I was like, dude, put one more in USC. Like, just do it, man. Just do it. You hate this team. You despise this team at home, and you put it out, and you finished it. You finished the job.
I had some people questioning why they kicked the field goal at the end when it was 38-20. That actually made sense to me because you made it if at 18, if you try to punch it in and put the game away and you don't get it, three touchdowns and you lose. And now again, would it have been tough for them to get 3 touchdowns with, in 3 minutes? Yeah, sure. But again, with Caleb Williams, I'm not putting anything past him, right?
Right.
You make it a three touchdown game, and now 3 touchdowns, the best they can do is tie it and maybe go for 2. So I actually didn't have a problem with that. You get the points there, but then you put it away with the defense. I just, we can report now, Ryan. Obviously, Carter Nelson was on campus today, which we reported on the message board, which was a kind of a cool story. If you didn't see on the message board, we put it on the message board several hours ago, about 7 hours ago now. And there was an interesting backstory, Ryan. You and I found out about this last week, but Carter wanted to keep it quiet because he didn't want it announced till he was on campus because he wanted to surprise we were told that he wanted to surprise the commits. It's a good sign. You put on a show for him. There's a lot of big-time 2025 kids on campus today. You had a lot of your commits on campus today. And people are wondering, like, are those kids rethinking and all that? And I always say no, because they don't look at things the way we do as fans. We're passionate about Notre Dame. We're emotional about Notre Dame, and I'm but they look at it a little bit differently. But man, this kind of win, Ryan, settles a lot of those nerves, right? Is this team arrived? No, they haven't. There's still stuff to work on. But when you haven't arrived yet, and you just go on the road, or you just come back home after a really tough 3-game stretch, 2 games on the road, 4th straight ranked opponent in a row, and you dominate like that, man, that's a great way. That's a great place to be, Ryan.
And you
Great
you
place to
needed it,
be.
man. I mean, guys, I'll repeat it again. I've said it like 4 times already. Notre Dame needed that game.
Yeah.
You needed it. You needed it. USC was a team that last year they front ran against you the entirety of that football game, and you know that if if one bounce goes this way, one turnover doesn't happen here, maybe you have a shot to win that football game in the end. But for the most part, USC outplayed Notre Dame from start to finish for
Yeah.
the course of that football game. You needed to prove to yourself as a young team, from a coaching staff perspective, and all the way down to the true freshmen that are on the football team now, that you can win this type of football game. You could beat a top 10 team in your house, a bitter rival. You needed to do it, man. And
Yeah.
Brian, I know you wanted to start with the defensive side of the football
Yeah.
because it's only right. It's only
But
right.
I
that we
just
go
want to
there.
say this
Yeah.
first too, Ryan. It was a really cool
Sure.
atmosphere for those that were at
Yep.
the game. It was loud. The crowd was into it. I mean, I'll give them a lot of credit. The crowd was into it. It was great to see. I mean, you had legends back. You had Joe Montana came back. They did a really cool thing where like he walks out from the like during one of the timeouts in the first quarter. They show this on the scoreboard. They show this guy walking from behind. They show the cameras behind him, and you can tell who it is. And he pounds on the the first sign coming out, and he pounds the sign, and then they're like, ladies and gentlemen, and they start in, and then Joe Montana walks out, crowd goes crazy. They introduced Justin Tuck, crowd went crazy. They showed the finish against LSU in the bowl game in 2017. Ian Book's pass, Miles Boykin, boom. Who's on the screen? Ian Book, Miles Boykin are there. It was great, man. You had like Keyshawn was there. I was told that like Will Fuller was, or not Will Fuller, Will Ferrell was supposed to be there. USC had all their legends at the game. Notre Dame had a bunch of legends at the game, and you went out and dominated. And it's also important from the standpoint of the USC Notre Dame rivalry, Ryan, because Brian Kelly whooped USC pretty good. Like they had a couple bad losses. They had the bad loss in 2011. You had the bad loss in 2014. You got blown out, right? That was a bad loss. And what was the other game? 2016, which was it wasn't a close game, but Notre Dame competed in that game. I mean, they at least can.
Yep.
Josh Adams had the early touchdown, and that was just USC was a better team, but but for the most part, Brian Kelly really controlled the end of the 8-game losing streak in 2010. Had some big wins over USC, and both times. Well, first 2 times Notre Dame played for a title, meaning BSCS championship game in 2012, and then the playoff game in 2018. First 2 times they had to beat USC on the road to get there. Right. And so you come out last year, Marcus Freeman's first game against USC. It's a new era because Brian Kelly was going against Lane Kiffin before he really kind of found his niche as a coach. His teams weren't that great. You had a couple years under Sark, where you beat them once and they beat you the other time, like bad. And then you went against Clay Helton for a chunk of your career. Right.
Yeah.
Well, Marcus Freeman arrives and it's like, hello, I got to face Lincoln Riley and Caleb Williams in my first 2 years. And the first year, they kick your butt. And you're like, okay, right? Like, who dominated them? Kelly dominated them. Both of them won their first games against USC, I believe. And, yeah, actually, because 86, they had that huge comeback with Steve Berline, won 38-37. And you get your butt kicked. What are you going to do? Are you going to be able to get the series back on track? And so, like, even from a rivalry standpoint, you lose a second straight game to USC, it's going to make it a lot harder to go out there and get the next Rico Flores, the next Kingston Viliama-Asa, the next group of West Coast players that USC wants, because it's like, why would you go all the way to Notre Dame and so you can get your butt kicked by us?
Yep.
Now, if you're Notre Dame, you're like, well, we've played them twice and it's 1-1. But if you look at the total points between the 2 games, like, we got a little bit of an edge there. You know what I mean?
And Kingston Viliama-Asa was in attendance tonight, which
watching
was
the
awesome
game.
to see.
Watching the game. So,
which I think reaffirms things, right? For like a lot of
Correct.
people. I mean, again, it's not like the super emotional as far as like, oh, this team's struggling. Do I really want to be here? But it's more of like, yeah, this is what I signed up for. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like that's what I want to do.
You're right. Make sure we're clear. He's not rethinking it. It's not second guessing it. But it's like, I think you nailed it. It's comforting. Like, okay, it'll be all right. Yeah, last week sucked. Because that's really what it comes down to. Notre Dame is sitting there 6-2. We're all disappointed but Notre Dame's had one bad Saturday is really what it comes down to. The Louisville game sucked. There's no excuses. But this was a big win. And it gets things back on track. It gets the series rivalry back on track. And now Notre Dame can go into the bye week feeling really good about itself because they got a great team win. So nothing to be upset about there.
No. So let's take us to the defensive side of the football, which, Brian, you want to talk about whooping someone's butt, right? On the USC side of things, you have, in my opinion, and I think most people's opinions, one of the brightest minds in college football from an offensive perspective in Lincoln Riley. I think most people would agree with that. I mean, when you talk about the best offensive play callers in college football, he's on the short list, top 2 to 3. I mean, if not number one by a lot of people.
I've always said this about him. I don't think he's a great head coach. I think he's a tremendous offensive mind. Arguably the best in college football. Arguably. He's in the conversation with guys like Lane Kiffin and Sark and guys like that. Yes, correct.
Yep. And you went into this game against an offense that was averaging over 50 points a game, the number one scoring offense in all of college football, with one of the best offensive minds in college football, arguably the best, with the reigning Heisman Trophy winner at quarterback, who's also probably going to be the first overall selection in the 2024 NFL draft. And before we get into the breakdown of positionally who impressed, who did this, who did that, Al Golden took Lincoln Riley's lunch money tonight. Took his lunch money, man. Absolutely took it. No ifs, ands, or buts about it, folks. If for the people in here that don't like Al Golden for whatever reason, or in the fire Al Golden train every single week, Al Golden coached circles around the USC offensive staff tonight. Forget about the 4 turnovers they forced. They didn't know what was happening. They didn't know, they had no response to the different pressure looks he was giving, the coverage variations. Al Golden coached circles around this USC team, which was my most pleasant surprise, Brian. I thought the defense was going to play well compared to expectations.
Right. Yeah. Well, but here's the thing, Ryan. Let me counter with this. Because I want to make this point here real quick. I want to give some context. Number one, USC had 302 yards of offense tonight. 302. Their previous low this season was 365 last week against Arizona. The lowest they had last year was 357 against Oregon State. So it was 55 yards below their previous season low. They scored 20 points thanks to a long punt return. And for all the people that want to talk about speed, Notre Dame doesn't have speed. I just watched Notre Dame's punter, Hawk, the fastest player on USC's team. I just had to say that. But if I'd have told you before the game, Notre Dame is only going to have 251 yards of offense, and it's going to be 24-6 at halftime. If I told you, Ryan, I'm going to give you, I've looked into the future, and I'm going to tell you 2 things. Number one, it was 24-6 at halftime, and Notre Dame only finished the game with only 251 total yards of offense. That's it, bro. You'd be like, oh my God, it's going to be a terrible night. Would you not have? It's going to be a terrible night. But why? But they won by 4 touchdowns, because I don't know that I've seen. I don't know that I've seen a defensive performance like this. We'll get to the players in a second. I don't know that I've seen Lincoln Riley get schooled that bad in a long. I don't know that I've ever seen it, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
because it wasn't just the early game plan, Ryan. It was they tried to adjust, and none of it worked. And I'll tell you this: about 50 of those 302 yards came late in the first half when Notre Dame went prevent defense, let USC go, and then they stopped playing prevent. And then what happened? Immediately, USC could go nowhere. And if it wasn't for players celebrating after the 1 sack, they don't even get that.
Yeah, probably not.
They don't even get that.
Probably not.
Because the clock runs out. Because Notre Dame had to call the timeout with 2 seconds left. So, I mean, I've been critical of Al Golden in the past. You've been critical of Al Golden in the past, more so last year than this year.
Yeah.
But just all year long, Ryan, this defense has carried this football team all year long. And it needed brilliance tonight, and Al Golden flat out gave them brilliance tonight. Now, we'll get to the players, because I don't care how good your game plan is. You got to carry it out when you're playing this team. But, I mean, just mixing up different looks. I mean, Caleb was so confused tonight. He was so confused tonight because, and you and I talked all week, Ryan, this is a smart kid. You talk to NFL people. Yes, Caleb Williams is a really physically gifted player, but he's a smart football player as well. And he was confused from jump. I mean, they would show pressure and bail. They were bringing depth pressures, like the second Xavier Watts interception was on a corner fire.
Yep.
And he never saw Xavier Watts coming down. I don't know that you guys could see it on TV, but they had so many answers for the seam routes, and it's like a different guy every time. And huge props. I mean, the only call that they made that I was like, that's a great call right there, was the 31-yard touchdown on the option play. That was a great call. I mean,
because
right at the Notre Dame blitz,
had a little bit of the influence to the right, and he came back with the speed to the left.
Yep.
Yeah, it was a good call.
And Notre Dame attacked this way, went right away from the blitz. That was a heck of a call. That was it. Because the one touchdown that got called back on the draw, that's not a touchdown if they don't hold Howard Cross. He was going right for Caleb Williams, and they held him, and that's why he was able to go for the big play, is because of the hold. If he doesn't get held, it's not a big play. I just kept waiting on USC to answer, and they never answered. Man, I got to tell you, it was a masterful performance tonight by Al Golden. It really was. And you know what else I liked, Ryan? He trusted his kids tonight. He did. He trusted his kids tonight. And hats off to him. In the biggest moment, the backs against the wall, he had a great game plan, but the game plan relied on, my dudes are better than your dudes. And kudos to him for that, because that's exactly how the game played out. Their dudes at Notre Dame were better than the USC dudes, including Caleb Williams.
Yeah. Well, it was a masterclass from a defensive play calling perspective. One minor tweak that I have to make is, I said 4 turnovers. I forgot about the 5th one, the last one where Xavier Watts punched the ball out at the end against the backups. My apologies, folks. My apologies. 5 turnovers, 3 interceptions off of Caleb Williams, the most he's ever thrown in a college football game, by the way. The only other time, he had only had one game, Brian, before this, where he had multiple interceptions in a game. Freshman year against Baylor.
That was against that really good Big 12 champ Baylor team as well.
Good team, man.
In 2021 with a bunch of NFL players. Correct, Ryan.
Yes.
We talked about this during the week. 877 pass attempts coming into this game.
Yep.
And he'd only thrown 10 picks. Notre Dame almost got 50% of that tonight, Ryan. Think about that. That is nuts. I mean, 33% of that. I first keep thinking he had 4, but they had 2 of them were fumbles. But I mean, we're going to talk about this in tomorrow's show, Ryan, but my dad's texting me during the show. He's like, key number 1, bam. Key number 2, bam. So the keys that you and I talked about, like, they shut down the run. They had Caleb Williams off balance all night. They tackled well, and they made stops. I mean, it was literally like boom, 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 boom. Like check, 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 check. And I'll say this, Ryan. We talked about Al Golden. Let's get into the players. There's a phrase that you and I have used a lot this year. Let the defensive line loose. And people ask, what do you mean by that? What does that mean? What does that look like? That right there.
That's what it looks like, yeah.
That right there.
And it was a super collaborative effort too, right? It wasn't like a Howard Cross game against Duke where it's like Howard Cross was the mainstay of that group. Like he was the guy, not the only
tackles, 3.5 tackles for loss.
Just like this super gaudy stat line. This was a collaborative effort, man. Riley Mills was dominant tonight, folks. I would be willing to say, it's just my opinion, that this may have been Riley Mills' best football game in a Notre Dame uniform
by
for me. Yeah.
And he's played well this year. Yeah.
Yeah, he's played very well. He had a really good football game. I thought Javonte Jean-Baptiste flashed a ton in this football game.
Outside of one play. Did you see that one play where they drove him like 10 yards?
They did, yeah.
I looked at Vince, I said, was he dropping into coverage? He said, no, they blocked him.
And Howard Cross had his usual just good football game. Just good football player, man.
Nana had another sack.
Nana played well, man.
Yeah, he
Good, good
did.
football game.
He
He had
did.
one of his better football games as
4
a Notre Dame
tackles, had a
Fighting
sack.
Irish.
Yep.
He had a
Yep.
sack last week too, right? I
Yeah.
mean, Nana has been playing decent ball for the most
Yep.
part, man, the last couple weeks. So yeah, Nana contributed. You saw a huge flash play from Boubacar Traore in this game. The strip
Followed
sack
by a
was
really
almost a turnover.
freshman mistake, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
No,
luckily for
Ryan
him,
Gabriel,
a
go ahead.
couple, a
Go ahead.
senior and a sophomore also joined him in that dumb mistake. So it wasn't quite as bad of just a freshman making a dumb mistake. But yeah.
Also, Ryan, Gabriel Rubio back.
Yes.
This is a different team when Gabriel Rubio plays.
Yep.
Just because, and the reason I say that, it's not that Howard Cross and Riley Mills aren't good, because that duo, Ryan, has been excellent all year. Like, there's been a lot of this from Riley Mills. When he's given a chance to attack, this is what he does. This is just what he does. Howard Cross has been great all year. But when Gabriel Rubio plays, he's been really good.
Yes.
And, his stat line's not impressive. 1 tackle, 1 breakup. But he's just around the ball. He's hard to block.
Yep.
So it was just a lot of guys. It was just a lot of guys. By the way, a buddy of mine just texted me a picture. I guess it was tweeted out. It's a picture of Deuce Knight with Sam Hartman at Kingston. And cool. Kingston's got like all Notre Dame stuff on, but they're going like this. Ryan, they're going like this. Because USC goes like this. So I was like, okay, I can dig that. But just Ryan, like, this is what you and I thought this defensive line can be. They turned it loose against Duke, and they played great. This is what we've been begging for all year, right? It's what we've been begging for you. By the way, some questions. Vince is going to join us when he gets home, and Sean Davis might pop in at some point in time as well. He's had a really rough week, and
I know.
and he wanted
no.
I'm explaining to people. Normally, Vince will leave the games early and come home and start the show, but he's had a rough week, and he needed to enjoy this. So he was at the game, and we spent the whole first quarter outside watching the game outdoors, which is really cool because you could hear the crowd and all that. I wanted to experience that, but he'll get here as soon as he gets home. But this defensive line, Ryan, has been a very underrated part of this team all year.
Yep.
And you and I have been saying when they're turned loose, they're very good. And we're going to talk about the linebackers and the DBs and all the good things they did. But a big part of that is the D line, because the first interception that Xavier Watts picked off, tight end's open.
Yeah.
I mean, tight end's open. Why doesn't he complete the pass? Because he had dudes in his face.
Yes.
And so he sails it and he gets picked off. The reason he didn't see Xavier Watts on the second interception, because he was pressured.
Yes.
Like he was, they were just on him all night long, Ryan. It was impressive.
And it was such a difference from the last year's game where it was just like, you couldn't get the kid on the ground, right? Like Notre Dame harassed Caleb a little bit last year, but it wasn't enough. Like they didn't get him to the ground. They didn't cause him to get super frantic. Like he always just looked in control last year. Tonight, they put Caleb Williams in some really bad positions, some really bad spots, and they got him on the ground a ton in this football game, even if that's just knocking the ball, necking him down, forcing bad throws, incompletions. They defensive line played their butts off, man.
Yes.
Like they did. Again, like I said, Boubacar Traore flashed this football game. I also saw Jason Onye a couple times. I'm like, all right, cool, awesome.
Ryan, you nailed it though, dude. This was I didn't see like any big plays from Jordan Patel. I don't see like him in the stat line at all.
I didn't even see him in the game. Was he playing?
He played, but he just was steady. He was just setting the edge, and Burnham had a couple nice edge plays. Obviously, you mentioned Boubacar. It just was the D line as a whole just played really good football.
They did. They did.
And one of the things that I broke down in the Wednesday show, Ryan, and you and I talked about it too, is the ends had to play well in this game. They had to, and they did.
Yep.
I mean, the guy that was getting the most pressure on Caleb early was Javonte Jean-Baptiste.
Yes, he was.
I mean, and Caleb could just never get comfortable. Those tackles had no chance against him. And Nana was beating their butts, like in the run game especially. Like they were just kicking their butts. I mean, and we've said this all along. When the D-line is getting a push, it makes the linebacker pressures so much more effective, Ryan. And tonight was a perfect example of that because the linebackers getting free. And I'll tell you what, Marist had one of the best pass rushes of the night too.
Oh, against the guard, right?
Yeah,
where he sunk his hips and like, yeah, he did.
Reminded me of the rush that remember when Dalen Hayes did that against Clemson in 2020? Yep. They just lined him up over the guard and he just whooped that dude athletically. That's what we saw tonight. Yeah.
He had some bend, man. You even saw Jalen Sneed flashing in his on ball roll tonight.
I mean, he had a couple pressures and broke up that pass. I mean, there were just there were some guys that played like stars tonight, Ryan. There were. We'll get into that. Riley Mills played like a star tonight. Howard Cross was good.
He was good.
You know, Riley was by far the best defensive lineman. Javonte Jean-Baptiste continues to make himself money. Like, if you're an NFL team and you're watching this kid, you're like, this kid can play at the next level. I'm not saying he's like a day 2 draft pick now, but like, how do you 6'6", long, athletic, consistent pass rush, plays the run well. You know, he's doing some really good things. But the thing I loved about this game, Ryan, is there were just so many different guys that contributed to this. And so I got to give Al Golden credit for this, because it wasn't just the game plan, but him, Al Washington, Mike Mickens, Chris O'Leary, Max Bulla, they had this group emotionally and mentally and physically ready to play at a high level, because every position group played big time football tonight. But when you dominate up front, Ryan, I don't care who you're playing, you're going to be hard to beat when you have the kind of talent Notre Dame has.
Well, I was going to say, Brian, is that even when Notre Dame has a dominant defensive performance, sometimes there's still moments where you're like, you know, but that position didn't play that well, right? Like there's still room for improvement from position to position, which there always is. But there was no position group tonight where I said they were average or below average. Like they were all plus performers in this football game, and some played an elite level tonight. I mean, like that's kind of where it was. I mean, so yeah, man, the defensive line, I think, starts it up, and they forced a lot of issues, and they gave the second and third level defenders a lot of opportunities to make big plays, which they did. They capitalized on those big opportunities and those big plays when they had their opportunity, when the opportunities were in front of them. So yeah, man, it was the best defensive performance that I can personally recollect from a big game. I'm trying to think back to the last one where I'm just like, yeah, that was a masterclass
against
like,
this kind of team.
Masterclass. Yeah.
Well, and here's the thing: like you could say Clemson last year,
sort of,
but that offense wasn't nearly as good as this one. Like relative to the quality of the competition, and also, you know, last year's Clemson game, you jumped on them early because of other parts of the ball, right? Yeah. And then you look at the wind was really bad that night. Like you couldn't throw the ball. I'm just trying to think of like against the quality of the competition. I honestly, Ryan, I'd have to sit and think about it for a while. You probably have to go back to like when they beat Clemson in 2020, it was a shootout.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, it probably have. I mean, even like Syracuse 2018, where they dominated them, that offense wasn't anywhere close to this level of the offense. And you could say, hey, you know, you were shutting them down early, but it helped when you knocked Eric Dungy out of the game on the second series of the game.
Sure.
Like I honestly, it's been a long time. But you know what? It's probably, Ryan. It's probably the last time we saw this was probably 2017 against USC.
Yep.
When they dominated that USC team. I mean, that's probably the last time. But you know, that USC team had 336 yards of offense. This one had 302. You know, I mean, this was a masterclass. One thing you and I talked about yesterday, Ryan. Yep. I'm gonna kick it back over to you. Oh, and by the way, that USC team went for 5.0 yards per play. This one went for 4.1.
4.1 is not good for people that aren't in the analytics side of things. That's not good.
Really bad.
That's not good. Because USC ran a lot of plays. Like USC had the ball a lot more than Notre Dame had the ball tonight.
Oh yeah,
like a whole lot more.
They ran 74 plays, only had 302 yards. They in 17 they had 336 yards, but they did that in 67 plays. Right. So and I'll probably about 40. I said 60 earlier, probably closer to like 40. 40 of the yards came on late in the first half when you were playing off. You know what I mean? One thing you and I talked about, Ryan, on Tuesday, I'm setting you up here. We said for Notre Dame to win this game, you needed guys to step up and play like stars on all three levels, right? All three levels needed somebody, and we saw that tonight. And on the second level, again, they all made plays. Jack Kaiser made plays. Did you see him run through the receiver trying to tackle him? They ran like a little swing pass, and the receiver trying to block him, and Jack just trucked him. Marist had some big plays in the game.
Yes, he did.
J.D. Bertrand was an absolute machine tonight.
It was one of his better games.
9 tackles in the first half, Ryan. 5 solos, and that fourth down stop that he had was a thing of brilliance in the first half.
Oh,
Like
where he
he was,
tackled both the mesh. He just gripped onto the
yes,
mesh. It was like, yep,
he
you're not
tackled,
going
and
anywhere.
Caleb's trying to rip the ball out from him, and he
Yeah.
couldn't. Like Caleb was trying to do that thing he did against Kansas as a freshman. You remember that? And
Yeah.
JD was like, "We ain't Kansas, bro. It's not
Yeah.
He was phenomenal tonight,
He-
and it wasn't just the blitzes, Ryan. His
Yep.
speed to the perimeter. If you didn't think he was fast, you saw it tonight. I mean, he was chasing stuff down to the perimeter. JD was excellent tonight. Excellent in this game. Finished with 11 tackles, 1.5 tackles for loss. He had 9 tackles in the first half. The reason he didn't have as many tackles second half is because USC was throwing the ball so much more in the second half. He was excellent.
Felt like they were rotating linebackers a lot in the second half too, because just kind of playing the space game a little
And
bit
the nickel
more.
stuff.
But yeah. I mean, JD, I thought it was one of his better games. I mean, Clemson last year was pretty dang good for JD as well.
Yeah.
So like, there's been a couple of those, but
Yeah.
this was one of his better ones too, Brian, because I just felt like he made a lot of plays, but he also didn't miss any plays, right? Like he was just good all night. Like there were no missed tackles. He was just solid. I'll be shocked if I look at PFF stats tomorrow and it's like JD Bertrand had like 2 missed tackles. Be like, when did that happen?
Yeah,
Where did that happen?
Show me that,
exactly.
please. Yes, exactly. I want to see it.
Yeah.
He was excellent.
Maris made some plays, obviously, as a space dude. I mean, sacking the quarterback. He was harassing Caleb Williams as part of the blitz package all night. Like, even when he wasn't finishing, he was helping other guys finish. Like, he was that type of dude. And then Jack Kaiser was good, steady player. Like
5 solo tackles, Ryan.
Yeah.
5 solo tackles. So JD had 11 tackles on the night, 1.5 tackles for loss and a half a sack.
Yep.
Jack Kaiser had 5 tackles, all solos in the night. Yep. Maris Leofau had 4 tackles and he had the sack.
Yep.
And then Jalen Sneed came off and had 2 tackles and a sack and had a pass breakup. I thought he was going to pick that. I
will say this though, that pass breakup was one of the most instinctual plays I have seen Jalen Sneed in, because like they sucked him inside, right? Because I think he was running some type of twist up front. But the fact that he saw the running back leak and was able to get his hands in that passing window, would have loved him to intercept the football. But Jalen, the one thing that I've been critical of Jalen Sneed is that Jalen Sneed's a great athlete, but like, does he see the game incredibly quickly all the time? Well, he saw that play, man. You saw the diagnostic skills on that play. Jalen Sneed played a really good football game. Like, we'll talk about obviously him, roughing the punter, which was like a dumb play, but like
running into,
otherwise, he showed up on the defensive side of the football tonight, man. That was one of the better performances I can remember from Jalen Sneed on the defensive side of the ball so far.
Yeah, he was impactful. I mean, that was the big thing, Ryan, is he was consistently impactful. And just the edge pressures and he comes off the edge, man. He comes off the edge fast.
He screams,
a couple times. He didn't even get close to Caleb Williams a couple times, but Caleb just saw him and just started running. I mean, started moving. Like he saw him coming off the edge,
He's one of those. I was just going to say, he's one of those kids also that brings swagger to the field as well, right? Like when he makes a play, you hear about it. And I like that stuff. Like, I think that matters, especially when you're playing against a really good football team like USC is, the top 10 caliber, undefeated season. And you have a player like him that is going to chirp and let you know that when he makes a play. I think that stuff absolutely matters.
Jalen and Javonte Jean-Baptiste both had Caleb Williams spooked a couple times. Like there was a couple times. And I'll tell you what, forgot to mention this during the D-line thing, but the D-line and linebackers too, USC twice tried to pop a quick inside run against Notre Dame to try to catch him on a big play, and every time they just sniffed it out. And for everything that they did, Ryan, one of my complaints was there was a couple silly penalties that gave them first downs. They converted some second and longs and plays like that, which frustrated me, but I'm gonna give them a pass because of just how good everything else was. I mean, and some of that too was just, Caleb making plays. But I was very impressed with the front seven as a whole, Ryan. We talked about the linebackers, we talked about the D-line, but just as a whole, the front seven just dominated action it started right away. Right away, USC got no push and they were right at them.
Okay, a phrase that people have heard you say a lot, Brian, especially in anybody that was at the practices this offseason, they move different is a lot of what you've heard from like the younger guys, right? And Boubacar Traore, just to backtrack for a second, I just want people to understand what a big time potential pass rusher looks like. That
Yeah.
like that move that because that was just pure speed and bend and ability to work outside track.
Yeah.
That was beautiful, man. Notre Dame doesn't have enough of that. They don't have enough of that. And I saw that and I was like, literally, this was my moment, Vince. I was watching the game. I'm looking for some reason, my eyes zeroed in on Boubacar on the play before his sack. And I'm like, 51. Who the heck is 51? I have no idea who 51 is. So I started Googling it, but my eyes are fixated on 51 because I'm like, who the heck is 51? And then outside track, easy transition, getting around the track, clubs the ball, almost forces a turnover. I'm like, oh, that's Boubacar Traore.
Yeah.
That's a true freshman, buddy.
Yeah.
Like, that's wild, man.
Yeah.
They need more of that. And that
who
was
was rushing
sign.
off the other edge, Ryan? It was Jalen Sneed.
Yes.
Like,
it's a lot of speed, man. A lot of speed coming off the
Vince,
edge.
there was the one practice, the full practice we went to this year. The only one, the one that was on the high school field.
Yeah, school
and
field.
Ryan, one of our scouting reports from that game was like, this number 51 is he's raw. He doesn't really know what he's doing yet, but because the takeaway that night was, and another guy that had a great practice that night who we didn't see tonight because he got hurt like that night is Aiden Gobira. But the three most impressive players at practice that night were Josh Burnham, Aiden Gobira, and Boubacar. And this is why, Ryan, you and I had the conversation about you and I had a debate about who has the most upside of any player on the defensive side of the ball, Armel or Boubacar. But it's like, but this is what we always like. The fact is these guys, the explosiveness that they bring to the table is just about when is that time going to come? And tonight, Boubacar got his chance. Didn't play a lot, but got his chance in that moment and made a huge play. Of course, now it's going to get your butt chewed out because you didn't, you got forced timeout and all that kind of stuff. But man, that was a heck of a play because, 24-10 going into the halftime and USC starts the second half with the ball. That's a different situation, guys. Vince, we're talking about the defense. We broke down the D line and the front seven. If you want to just kind of give some thoughts on that, I told people that I'm starting to show off first because I wanted you to be able to kind of relax and enjoy the.
I really appreciate it because I hung around for a little while. Of course, watched everybody storm the field, and like within 5 seconds of them storming the field, they were like, "Okay, everybody needs to vacate the field as soon as possible," and that took like an hour. So, which I thought was pretty funny. But anyway, as far as the front seven is concerned, Marcus Freeman made a comment earlier this week, and he talked about wanting to be aggressive, but then he also talked about wanting to contain Caleb Williams. And it was like, okay, what do I believe is actually going to happen? You know what I mean? Just after last year and the way that they were going to try to contain Caleb Williams, which obviously did not work. And I was worried. I thought we were going to see more of the just kind of, gap contain, stay home, keep him in front of you kind of stuff. And we talked all along, Brian, about how when this defense is good, it's good because the front can get after the quarterback when they're being aggressive, when they're getting upfield. Now, there were a few times where they got a little too far upfield or whatever, and Caleb made him pay with his legs. I mean, he's really good, right? But overall, I loved the defensive game plan. And, we've been talking about execution. They executed the defensive game plan. I mean, it was just a thing of beauty. Every time there was a big moment, it felt like the front is the one that answered it, right? I mean, they were putting Caleb Williams on his tush. I mean, it was so much fun to watch. I mean, they were literally having defensive meetings in the backfield. I mean, they were just meeting at Caleb Williams. And so, this defense has gotten faster. They've gotten more aggressive, from a personnel standpoint, and now they're using it. And it's like, Thank you. I at one point during the game, I just looked up and I was like, Dad, thanks, man. I think you talked to these guys about how to play. And it was, it felt good. It felt really, really, from a personal standpoint, I needed this. I needed this particular win in a lot of ways. And we got it. And it was awesome. And the defense, man, holy smokes. I'm glad you guys started with the defense because it was their game, man. It was their game. Gosh. And I think you said something at one point, Brian, if the defense, I can't remember exactly what you said. It was something about if the defense does X, no pun intended, because he was really good too. then the Bryles Award just needs.
Yeah,
to
I said
be
if they hold,
shipped
if they yes, and we got the whole gang together.
Oh, there we
tonight.
go.
Got the whole gang together. I said if the defense holds USC to 17 or less points, you just need to give Al Golden the Broyles Award, which goes to the top assistant coach in college football. And if not for that long punt return, guys, that's exactly what they would have done.
100%.
I mean, it's exactly what it would have done. Do you want to know the biggest difference between last year and this year? It's not talent. There's two big differences, and we'll get to one of them here in a second when we get to the secondary. There's two big differences. And the first one that I want to talk about now before we go to the secondary was last year, Al Golden coached afraid of Caleb Williams.
Yeah.
This year, Al Golden attacked Caleb Williams. And that's the difference. It's like trust your dudes. And if you want your players to trust you, you've got to trust them. And Al Golden tonight said, I'm going to turn these kids loose. I'm going to trust. Now, when you say turn them loose, it wasn't just, okay, let's line up and run two coverages and two looks and just let them just go be better than him. No, it was a great game plan. It was great play. He was always one step ahead of Lincoln Riley. But the game plan was built around because I think my dudes are better than your dudes, and I'm going to attack. I'm not going to coach scared of 13. And you know what we saw was there's a couple times, Vince, and you could really see this from this up. I don't know what it looked like on TV, but I'll tell you what it looked like in the press box. There was about 3 or 4 times when he got outside and I said, uh-oh.
Yeah.
And there were 3-yard gains because the speed of Notre Dame at linebacker and at safety and at corner was just, it was too much. It was too much. And that was the biggest thing is this is what happens when you trust your players. And your game plan is again, it was complex, it was well thought out, it was well called, but the whole thing was wrapped around I trust you guys to go out there and get this done. I'm going to turn you loose.
Yep.
And that's exactly what happened. And so now the consequences of that is I know a little girl who lives out in Los Angeles who's got a rock Notre Dame gear around campus this week, Mr. Davis. Yeah.
Sorry about. Yeah, she is very upset tonight. You know, as she's a student at USC, but at her, she grew up next to me every Saturday watching Notre Dame football. So, you know, she just happened to be a Trojan fan because her affiliation was school. And she's pretty upset tonight, guys. She was like, I don't understand why Caleb has to do everything. The O-line is terrible. The D-line is terrible. She's like, oh, man. And they're going to lose a couple more games. I said, yeah, they are.
Yeah.
They are. The schedule is starting with Utah next week. The schedule is brutal. And just to jump on what you said, Al go. I'm sure. Watch film and came up on what's up.
Sean, 1 second. Do me a favor, check the settings on your mic and make sure that there's input and output are both set to your mic because we're hearing a lot of echo. And I want people to hear what you have to say because you and I talked before we got to this. So I want people to be able to hear what you have to say because we're hearing a little bit of an echo.
How's that?
Much better.
All right. Sorry about that.
It's all good. He was so excited to get into the show tonight. That's what it was. That's what it was.
Love it.
That's what it was.
I did speed through the game. You know, happy birthday to my mom as well. We just came back and celebrated her. But this is what Utah did twice last year. If we're going to be honest, Utah did this. If you watch the game where they held, I think USC went to Utah in the regular season and scored 17. Then they went to the championship game.
USC scored 42 against them in the regular season last year. That was the Oregon State game. They scored 17 against Oregon State.
Right, the Oregon State game.
Yeah.
Well, the championship game was totally different.
Right.
And I just think, you know, you have so much respect for a player like Caleb Williams. The competitor in you can take a back seat sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you guys have been talking about.
Yeah.
Like being relentless, going after him, not just giving him all day to throw or an opportunity to do whatever he wants to do. You can't give players that are that good time. and the ability to have options. And I thought the Notre Dame defense, Al Golden is looking really good, man, to some NFL teams. I can tell you that. I would take Al Golden as a defensive coordinator here with the Chicago Bears in a heartbeat right now.
Hey, I watched the Broncos give up 70 a couple weeks ago to the Dolphins. So, yeah, I'll take that.
The Bears could probably use a new head coach as well. So maybe we can go for the full.
Hey, as long as Lincoln Riley doesn't show up on the doorstep.
Well, hey, you know what, though?
Oh,
Perfect scenario is Lincoln Riley's the head coach, and he gets Caleb Williams the number 1 pick and hire Al Golden, because right now the only person that's been able to shut down Al Golden or Lincoln Riley the last 2 years. Ryan, I want to say this too, man, as we kind of kick to the third level.
Yep.
You can't execute a game plan like this if you're not really good in the secondary. And the second difference between this year and last year is not only the game plan, but you had number 5 at field corner. And he showed tonight how much of an impact he can have on a football game. And I should have kicked it to Vince, but I won't let Ryan comment on this first, Vince, because I know you're the vice president of the Cam Hart fan club. But Ryan, the thing about Al Golden's game plan, this is why having talent in secondary is so important. You can't play a game like this if you don't, and it's not just the corners, but Thomas Harper was great tonight. Xavier Watts was great tonight. DJ was really good tonight. And you can't execute this game plan if you don't have corners and athleticism at the nickel and the safety spot to be able to go out there and hang with these receivers. Because I'll be honest, they put their nickel and their corners in a lot more islands than I expected them to tonight, just because of how last year was played. You have to have dudes like that if you're going to execute this game plan, Ryan. Or yes, Ryan.
Well, it was a very interesting game plan, I thought, from the secondary perspective, because you saw a little bit of everything in the secondary from an alignment perspective. I mean, you saw obviously the base of, the 4-2-5. You saw nickel, obviously, in this game. You also saw some 3 safety stuff as well, with kind of a nickel attached to it too. So it's almost like a dime look, which was very interesting.
Are you talking about the one where they put Thomas Harp on the back end and then put Clarence Lewis in the slot and the nickel? Or are you talking about when they went pure 3 safety stuff?
I think it was just pure 3 safeties. So it was almost like an umbrella type of look out of a dime package, which was very interesting as well. I hadn't seen too much of that this year, and that was still when the game was still in reach. Like, that wasn't just like at the end when you're up by 4 scores. Like, that was still when it was like an 11-point game, I think, at one point. So I think Notre Dame really mixed and matched a lot in the secondary, but at the end of the day, there was a lot of man coverage. There really was.
Yeah.
There's some brackets from the inside out, from the slots to a degree, but for the most part, it was Cam, you got him, right? Benjamin Morrison, you got him, brother.
And the bigger shocker even to me, Ryan, is they let Thomas Harper just cover the nickels or the slots.
Yep.
Now they got Clarence Lewis a couple times. But I mean, it's not that it wasn't for lack of effort, but I can't wait till you watch the all 22 of this, Ryan, because I want you to focus on when Thomas Harper was in the game. Well, he shut the USC slots down. They took some shots. They threw like a corner route against him, and it's just like he had no chance. If you'd thrown it to where it was catchable, he might have picked it off. I mean, he was really good.
Xavier Watts was basically playing a lot of robber coverage tonight.
All night.
All night. You can't do that unless you're in man cover in a lot of other spots and let a guy freelance. Like, you can't. Yes, we're going to hyper focus on what Xavier Watts did tonight, and for good reason. I mean, the guy had, I think, 7 tackles. He had 2 interceptions. He had a forced fumble. He had a fumble return for a touchdown. Fantastic game, right?
It's pretty good. Which was forced by Cam Hart.
But those 2 interceptions don't happen if you're not locking dudes up in man coverage and he's able to just freelance and make plays on the football. So you want to talk about a collaborative effort. You want to talk about being very working off of one another and being a unit. That's what happened tonight, was that the secondary was so good that it allowed Xavier Watts to, I don't want to call it freelance because he's still working within the system, but like to be a little bit more free flowing to his responsibilities. And I'll say this, when I knew that Xavier Watts was really going to have a great night, because I think he had an interception. He had an interception already at this point, but did you guys see when he worked inside out against Marshawn Lloyd on the sideline and he came up and smoked my guy? I was like, oh, Watts is tapped in tonight. Like, he's tapped in. Like, because that's one thing that's been a little bit missing with his game at times over the last few games, is that, like, there's been some missed tackles and physicality stuff. It's
not taking good angles to the football.
Yeah. But he was locked in as a tackler tonight. He made a lot of impactful plays, obviously, in coverage. He forced the fumble at the end. He returned the fumble for a touchdown. Watts was all over the place. But don't miss it here, guys, is the fact that it wasn't just the Watts show in the secondary. Cam Hart played well. Benjamin Morrison battled. He won some. He lost some. Thomas Harper had a good spot in the nickel. I mean, even DJ Brown, I thought, played a really good, solid football game tonight. Didn't miss any tackles, made the plays he needed to. The secondary was fantastic tonight. Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, it was. And you can't. Here's the thing about Xavier Watts. He played great tonight, but he played great tonight because he was put in position to play great tonight. And that goes back to to Vince. It goes back to what I had said earlier is you can't have this type of performance if the defensive coordinator doesn't say, I think number 0 can dominate tonight. So I'm going to put him in position to dominate. You know, that's the thing is like the way Ryan, you talk about all the robber, the stuff, he was playing the alleys. It was basically like, I think 0's athletic enough because USC is not a team that throws the ball deep a ton. They'll take their shots, but they love the intermediate stuff. They love the perimeter stuff. And basically to the field, Notre Dame we've got between Thomas Harper, between Cam Hart, and then Xavier Watts running the other alley. It's like, you're not going to be able to outrun us. And everybody talks about how athletic this USC second receiving core is, and it is. But they looked very mediocre tonight because the fact is Notre Dame's athleticism on this notion that some people still have about Notre Dame doesn't have speed on defense. Tonight, you saw.
Oh, yeah.
They flat out do. They don't always execute. They don't always take good angles with the football. They don't always tackle well, which, by the way, the tackling tonight was phenomenal.
Superb.
I mean, against this team, I mean, yeah, you missed some on Caleb, but guess what, guys? You're going to miss some on Caleb Williams.
Yeah.
But the secondary tonight, guys, was just – it was really the key to the whole thing, right? Like yes, the D-line played great, but there was just nowhere to go with the ball. And, yeah, there was actually a couple times where guys were open, including the first interception, but the D-line, the pressure got to them, but there wasn't a whole lot. And usually when USC was like, there was a couple times where they hit in cuts, and you're just like, dude, that's just a throw that nobody else in college football can make. That's why he completed that pass. Just nobody else can make that throw.
I mean, there was a couple sidearm throws, and I mean, it was just, he just made plays.
Body language of the wide receivers, I think, told the story tonight. Did you guys see Mario Williams all night, man? He was frustrated, man. Like he was not pleased, right? And I think that anytime, because wide receivers are always very animated, right? So as a defensive back, like, how do you know a secondary played well? If you have the wide receivers flustered, because they're going to show it on their face all the time, because like they're talkers, right? And I think like people watch the game back, just watch number 4 for USC at wide receiver, Mario Williams. You could see that he was incredibly frustrated, but he wasn't just frustrated because he wasn't playing well. He was frustrated because his whole wide receiver crew was not getting much opportunity. They weren't making a ton of plays like they're accustomed to making. It was just one of those nights where I think the only word that I would say for the secondary is stifling. Like that's the only word that comes to mind. Like they stifled the USC passing attack tonight.
Yeah. But I just want to build on what you guys were saying real quick. So, if you have a secondary, obviously specifically corner, nickel, and one safety, we can talk about the other safety, but the other safety played pretty decent today. Okay. So if you have a secondary like that, it opens up your playbook to do so much defensively because you can bring different kinds of pressures. You can do all kinds of different things with the front 7 because kind of what's going to happen, and you can put these guys on an island, and you can bring some guys down in the alley, and there's all kinds of different things that you can do. If you have to protect your secondary, there's so much less that you can do with the front 7. So much less. So I can tell you right now, Al Golden's like, okay, well, with this secondary that I've got, we can bring guys, we can do all kinds of stuff.
I'm sorry, I was laughing because I just saw Will C's latest comment about the Ebony alert that they put out for Caleb Williams.
I saw that.
It's a real thing, actually, by the way.
Is it really?
Yeah, it's California, but anyway, different conversation for another day. But I'm going to give you guys that right there, you want to know why there was a big difference between the game plan this year and last year? I truly believe this. It's because last year you didn't have Tariq Bracy, you didn't have Cam Hart.
Oh yeah.
You know, and Benjamin Moore, Jaden Mickey was still just a freshman.
Wasn't ready.
It just wasn't. Yeah, he wasn't ready for that. And tonight you had everybody, and they played him. I'm going to give you guys some numbers tonight. Mario Williams had 6 catches for 28 yards. Taj Washington had 7 catches for 41 yards. These are decent rushing numbers, and some of them aren't even good rushing numbers.
Right.
And these are also good wide receivers that you're
yes.
listing off.
Dorian
They're
Singer
so
had
deep.
3 catches for 22 yards. Brendan Rice had 6 catches for 18 yards. Zechariah Branch had 3 catches for 17 yards. Michael Jackson had 6 catches for 51 yards. Not a single USC wide receiver averaged more than 10 or more yards per catch. Not one. The only guy on the entire roster that averaged over 10 yards a catch was Luke McRee, because he had a 21-yard catch, and then he had a 0-yard catch. He's the only guy that averaged over 10 yards a catch, 10.5 yards per catch. Every single USC receiver, their top 2 receivers, Taj Washington and Brendan Rice, came into this game averaging over 20 yards per catch. They didn't even have good rushing statistics tonight, guys. If Brendan Rice had 6 carries for 18 yards, I'm like, that's pretty terrible. Taj Washington, 7 carries for 41 yards. Like, that's decent. That's over 5, right? You know, they had good rushing stats tonight, but those were their receiving numbers. Like, that is utter dominance, fellas. Utter dominance. And I mean, I don't know that I've seen anything like it against this quality of talent at quarterback and running back. And Marshawn Lloyd finished with 46 yards on 8 carries, which is good for 5.8 per carry. 31 of that came on 1 play.
Yeah.
I mean, there just was nothing there. There was nothing there tonight, guys. And Mario Williams, 6 catches for 28 yards. 20 of that came on 1 catch. So his other 5 catches went for 8 yards. 8 yards. I've never seen like it. But great game plan by Al Golden. But guys, I mean, it was executed. I mean, we keep saying, I'm sick of Marcus Freeman saying we got to execute better. And an offense, we'll get to, guys, there's a lot more going on than just execution, right? But defensively, it really is this. When this defense executes, fellas, every single week, they don't just shut people down. They dominate. They dominate. And today they did. And it was, like I said, USC only scored. They came in scoring 51.8 points per game. They scored 20 tonight. And 7 of that came on a short field after a long punt return. Yep. That's it. I mean, it was. We can talk. You guys can talk about whatever else you want to talk about when it comes to the defense, guys. But I mean, I think we've covered it all. I just think this was a brilliant game plan. Props to the entire defensive coaching staff, because every single unit stepped up and made plays tonight. They were emotionally ready to play. They were physically ready to play. And Sean, we've talked about the execution of the game plan, but if you're not mentally and emotionally ready to play, it doesn't matter. And after what happened to them last week, they could easily be pissed off and the offense isn't doing this and whatever. But this group came out tonight and showed that they've got some big-time football character and big-time football heart.
Maybe you guys can answer a question for me. Did Notre Dame look tired tonight?
No.
Like all that low-hanging fruit. They were tired at Louisville. Well, I guess Louisville was tired at Pittsburgh tonight.
They just didn't play well last week.
It's really that simple. Yeah. And look, I think somebody put up a stat that Marcus Freeman has just as many wins over top 10 teams in his second year as Brian Kelly had his entire tenure. I think it was something crazy somebody put up on social
but
media.
it's like, a little bit. Crazy. He had 3. Brian Kelly had 3, so that's. But it's also a little misleading because the 3 for Brian Kelly includes, I believe, where people were ranked when they played, like when the season was over, because like they beat Oklahoma, was ranked in the top 10, or Michigan State was ranked in the top 10 in 2011. Oklahoma was ranked in 2012. You beat Clemson when they were ranked number 1. They beat Stanford when they were ranked in the top 10 in 2018.
Yeah.
So they only had 3 wins over teams that finished in the top 10. Clemson didn't finish last year in the top 10, and we don't know that USC will. So it's a little bit of a misleading stat. But still, Marcus Freeman didn't get – Brian Kelly didn't get his first top 10 win until his second year, and that was against a team that finished 7-6.
Yeah.
So it's still impressive. And both of them have been blowouts. That's the other thing, too, is neither of them in competitive games, really.
I think Marcus Freeman feels like he has a really good team. And I think he does have a really good team. Now, I'm not about to sit here and say this team is a college football playoff contender. They probably have little to no shot to make it to the playoffs. But this meant something. This meant something to the program. And it wasn't just beating USC. It was the way they dominated and destroyed USC to the point where I watched like 5 minutes of Lincoln Riley at the press conference, and he was just lost for words. It was almost like he didn't see this coming. It was almost like his arrogance never thought. His arrogance never thought, man, we're in trouble in the trenches, and Notre Dame literally might push us around if we don't come in here and give an A effort. And I know the reason. The reason is because the young man that was standing to his right has covered his butt and everybody else's butt in that program for 2 years. And he just didn't have it tonight.
Right.
He tried to force things, and Notre Dame just had his number tonight. It's as simple as that. Very, very satisfying win, just for the fact that I knew Marcus Freeman said it. Like, losing is one thing, but when you lose at Notre Dame, it's magnified. And he's right.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
He's right. Like, there's nothing like losing at Notre Dame. Nothing. Maybe Alabama at this point, but Notre Dame has to be a close second. And I'll say this again. Preparation. I don't care what cliches he uses. The record for Marcus Freeman is when his team has a difficult loss, he gets his team ready to play.
Yeah.
He gets his team ready to play. Now, if we can clean up the Stanfords and the Marshalls and the Louisvilles, now we're working with something.
Yeah.
But the way this team responds, because like you said, Brian, it would have been very easy for this team to check out. They had plenty of excuses. They had midterms this week as well, right? That was another excuse people were trying to give this team.
Can't play well with midterms. Can't play well.
Marcus Freeman didn't want any parts of it. And it is encouraging in this win to see Jalen Sneed getting better, to see Boubacar Traore come in and get a sack. When you see the young players that we've been hearing about finally starting to show what we've been hearing about, and you mix that in with the veterans and the way they've been playing, like you said, Ryan, man, give DJ his flowers tonight, man. If you're going to rip the kid for the dropped interception and for the missed tackles against Louisville, give him his flowers. Because honestly, this has been his best year of play at Notre Dame. It really has. And it's a reason why he's on the field. Xavier Watts took a lot of heat. Give that man his flowers. And I know you guys talked about it early. The way they kept Caleb Williams caged up all night with the disciplined pass rush that they used was absolutely amazing. That means everybody has to be committed. Everybody. Very rarely did you see anyone rush past him and give him a lane. And shout out to Howard Cross. Riley Mills played one of his best games tonight, I thought. It was just really a collective effort. And for them to give that effort coming off the disappointment of their performance against Duke and definitely their performance against Louisville, that's, man, big round of applause to everybody. Coaches, players, staff, everybody. Congratulations and congratulations to Father Jenkins. And I guess they presented him with the game ball, which is pretty dope and pretty cool. So this should carry the Notre Dame fan base and up until tomorrow. And I'm sure the fans will find something else.
Well, I think Notre Dame might win the bye week though this week. I don't know. We'll see.
Right. Marcus Freeman was so happy walking away from the podium, telling the media, "I don't have to deal and see you all next week."
Yes,
he was so happy.
So, guys, let's move over to the offensive side of the ball. Obviously, this unit, to me, overall, it was a disappointing game as far as you made a pretty bad defense look good. And there's a lot of things to be frustrated by, but I'll say this, and we'll start with a positive. And we'll do mostly positives tonight. Upon further review tomorrow, we'll have a lot more to say about what we saw. And it's not a coincidence that the 2 scoring drives they actually had that were actual drives, not you get the ball at the 13 and at the 2, but the 2 touchdown drives they had, they were both series where they threw the ball down the field.
Yep.
And just Vince, the rest of the game plan, we didn't see that whole lot, but I'll tell you what, they did what they needed to do tonight. There's plenty that I need to see better. It's but at the same time, when they got the first turnover, they needed 7 and they got 7.
Sure.
Right? When you go up 17-3 and Benjamin Morrison gets you that pick, you got a chance. Vince, you and I are talking about this at the stadium. You got to get points here, and you got to get 7 here because 20-3 against Caleb Williams, and he gets the ball. Plus, they start the second half off. It's not enough, and so defense gives up that 1 score to make it 24-13, and the offense goes right down the field and scores. And Sam Hartman hits that big play to Chris Tyree, which I'm also partly frustrated by because I'm like, that's been there like 10 times this year.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And they finally throw it to. It wasn't even a good route. I mean, that's the best thing about it, guys. I'm like,
I know, right?
I'm like watching. I'm like, he's just. I watched the top end, and it was just like he didn't even have a top end. He just went to the post. But he's like, I'm way faster than you. You can't run with me,
Right.
And Vince was like, it reminded me of the Dory Jackson, Will Fuller play. But on that play, Will did a great top end. I mean, Will stepped out and then snapped into the post. And Chris Tyree was just like, no, I'm not. I'm just faster than you. And that play was designed to take that shot. That's the thing. Like, if you go back and watch the play, Sam was eyeing Chris Tyree the entire time.
And as soon as Faison took his guy out, and it cleared the path for Chris Tyree. I mean, that was the whole point of the play, right?
So what they did is they were in a 3-by-1, and Faison ran an out, and it took that safety with him, which they knew it was going to. That's what USC does. And there was no middle of the field help. So they knew they were going to have a one-on-one there. I mean, again, it was a great call. My thing would be, why didn't we see more of that? But it was a great call. So even though there's some issues with the offense, and we will have plenty to talk about that in tomorrow's Upon Further Review, the fact of the matter is, guys, they did what they needed to do to put the points on the board in the clutch moments, right?
Sure.
And
well,
Vince, you said it to me though. You when they went down and got 7 after the 24-13, you said that was a tremendous answer.
Right.
And any hope USC had died on that touchdown pass to Chris Tyree.
Yep. Well, and I believe like when USC hit a field goal and you and I win, there's no doubt about that, because if USC's kicking field goals, they're not going to win this game. So we're like, that's a win. But then Notre Dame went right down the field and kicked a field goal. So, I mean, they at least answered what USC did, right? And so would we have all liked 7? Of course, right? But Brian, the thing about the offense for me was we did start to see some of the creativity that we saw in the first 4 games that has been lacking the previous 3 games, right? We saw a reverse.
And some I've been begging for all year.
Right.
We finally saw a reverse. Imagine that.
Yeah,
It worked like easily. I was like,
yeah,
thank
right.
God, thank God.
We saw a reverse. We saw the shot down the field. You know, like Sam wasn't throwing shots down the field the last 3 games. He just wasn't doing it. He wasn't doing it. And whether it was he didn't trust his outside receivers or whether he wasn't trusting what he was seeing from the offensive line, whatever the excuse is, he wasn't doing it. He did it today to a degree, right? And we, like I said, we did see some of the creativity. There was the first run play or the last run play of the 3rd quarter, right? Notre Dame had been hammering the A gap, and you and I talked about this in the press box. Notre Dame was hammering the A gap, and finally USC slanted hard, and Notre Dame ran right into it for that 20-yard gain when they had their backs against the goal line.
Yep.
Right? That's a great call.
And they didn't get points on that, Vince, but they got out of the end zone,
right,
and flipped the field a little bit. Yes.
Right. Yeah. And the other major thing for me offensively in this game was the offensive line. They said, you know, last 2 games, that's on us. We need to play better. And they did. Sam Hartman didn't even get sniffed in the backfield. I mean, he had all day to throw the ball for the most part. You know, when they moved the pocket, he did what he was supposed to do there. Like, it's all because the offensive line gave him time. And in the run game, they were punishing USC. USC doesn't want that smoke, man. And I think Notre Dame is starting to understand that USC never wants that physical smoke, man. So I thought the offensive line in live viewing played pretty well in this game.
Yeah, from what I could tell live. Guys, just quick numbers. Notre Dame ran for 129 yards on 27 carries. The 125 was the team total, but they had 2 team runs for -4. It wasn't sexy, you know, but like you said, Vince, they were running against numbers all night and still were able to get a push. The other thing, there was actually a couple other calls that I liked that didn't get executed. I actually really liked the first play call of the second half. The bootleg. Sam just was locked in on
he got greedy.
Mitchell Evans. Now, again, I don't love throwing a bootleg to the left, and he underthrew the ball. If he gets the ball out, Mitchell has a guy beat. It was good coverage, but not great coverage. If he gets the ball over top, Mitchell might make a play on it, but he's got hold space wide open in the flats. If he just dumps it off the hold, he got a little, like you said, Vince, he got greedy. But
he also had the over. He also had the over on that too, if he wanted that as well.
But a quarterback's going to have a tough time seeing that roll into his left. That it's hard to get that in a peripheral roll into your left, which is why have they run a bootleg yet?
They always roll to the left. I don't really understand, and a lot of times it's to the boundary.
Yeah,
whatever. I mean,
but I did like that particular call. There was, I mean, I'll say this, there was some stuff there tonight that I'm hoping. Here's my hope. I'm hoping that the throw to Rico and the throw to Tyree get Sam going, because there were times tonight, guys, where he just would not look outside. The second third down of the game. So the first third down, he made a play to Jabron Payne. He had to throw it over a blitzer. Made a nice throw. Jabron made an even better catch, getting in the end zone. Great downfield blocking. But the next drive on third down, he threw the crossing route to Rico. He just stared at it. I mean, the safety's just staring at Rico's crosser. Jaden Greathouse has a one-on-one outside, and he's got the shot. Yes. And he just didn't even look at it. He was just locked in on the cross. He was just so unwilling to look down the field tonight. But he did take a couple shots later, and my hope is that to your point, Vince, and Ryan, I'll kick it to you on this one. My hope is that those shots and the fact that he got time tonight, because what was the one thing that we said in the pregame show USC was good at? There's only one thing USC's defense have been good at all year. They sacked the quarterback. They came in like in the top 10 in tackles for loss and sacks tonight into this game, and tackles for loss and sacks on the season. And they finished. You guys want to hear this crazy stat? So USC, let me find the actual statistic I'm going to give to you guys, because it was wild. USC came into this game. Let me find it. Where's it at? USC. I don't have it. USC came into this game tonight. I'm going to find it. Dang it. Let me just get, because I want to opponent preview USC. Let me get it here real quick. I got it right here. Okay, here it is. USC came into the game tonight, fellas, ranked 2nd in the country in tackles for loss and 6th in the country in sacks. Against Notre Dame tonight, They had 0 sacks, 1 tackle for loss. It was against Jeremiah Love. That's it.
Yep.
Second in the country in tackles for loss. 6th in the country in sacks. They got 1 tackle for loss. So was it sexy? No. Are there a lot of things that the offense needs to get better at? Yes. But they did well there. They did what they needed to do. They played a clean game for the most part. No penalties, no turnovers. They're going to have to figure that side out of the ball out a little bit. But tonight, they did what they needed to do.
Sure.
And when they needed to answer, Sean, they answered.
I saw more of the offense from the first 4 games. It wasn't at that level, but I saw more of that because we haven't seen any of it the last 3 games. But at least I saw some parts of it to make me think that they're headed in the right direction, especially going into the bye. Didn't mean to cut you off, Sean. Go ahead.
We saw, just to connect to what you said, Vince, we saw motion. We saw bunch formations. We saw passes on first down. Just simple things that offenses can do to keep the defense on their heels. And, we saw it. He finally took a shot. For him to go back to Chris Tyree after Chris Tyree dropped the touchdown last week against Louisville on that deep shot, man, I'm glad he went to him. And the schedule lightens up. I expect the offense to get better heading up to the Clemson game, to put up more points. And like you said, the offensive line, they took the challenge tonight.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was so funny on one of the estimate touchdowns. 3 guys blocked Bear Alexander. Like, literally, you have to see this. Like, 3 guys pushed him to the left. Aldridge, it was like, we don't have to worry about blocking anybody else in the defensive line on this goal line play. Just make sure we get Bear blocked, and then it was a clear path for a touchdown. It was complimentary football. And I'm not saying that they took their foot off the gas, but I think as a play caller, Jared Parker was very comfortable knowing that the Notre Dame defense was on one, as the kids say, tonight. Like, you could just watch it and see, USC's offense really can't do anything with our defense tonight. And as long as we score 28, we should be pretty cool winning this game, right? And I just feel like this win is so huge for the psyche of this team. They needed this win tonight. They needed everything to go. They needed Coach Biaggi needed that special teams touchdown.
Yes.
He needed Schrader to hit his field goals. The defense needed those turnovers, the sacks, and the interceptions after dropping 2 to 3 interceptions last week against Jack Plummer. It's like everything that needed to happen to give confidence to every area of this team took place on tonight.
Yeah.
And hopefully they can take that and apply it moving forward and get back to the way they were playing early in the season, heading into that Clemson game.
I'll say this too, guys. I actually, Sean, one thing that I slightly want to push back on is I actually think the offense was a little more aggressive than maybe we're giving them credit for. I mean, when you look at the first half, their first drive, they started at the 13-yard line. I mean, there's not a whole lot you can do there. Second drive, they had a shot down the field and didn't take it. Third drive on offense, let's see here. That's when they ran that tunnel to Chris Tyree. That went for 16 to convert a 3rd and 4. They came right back on the next play, ran a reverse for 13 yards. Mitchell Evans has got to run a stick route to the first down marker. It was off coverage. The guy was bailing. There's no need for you to shorten up that route when the guy's playing off coverage. You shorten up that route, maybe, but I mean, I can't think of a situation where you shorten up that route. That was an execution mistake, right? That was a good call. They were playing soft coverage. You had the route open. He's got to run to the sticks, and so you he hits that throw. He gets tackled short of the sticks. Then your fourth drive of the first half, they threw a wide fade to Jordan Faison, and he just got covered well. USC played it, but they took a shot, and that's then on third down, Mitchell Evans drops the third down pass that would have moved the sticks. Their next offensive drive, they got the ball at the 2-yard line and punched it in. Then their next drive is the Benjamin Morrison pick, and the first play they took a deep shot to Rico. So I actually thought there were, and then the second half they came out in the first drive with a 24-6 lead, and they ran a bootleg on the first play, which I thought was a great play call. Sam's just got to hit Holden. I mean, he's just got to hit it. And then they ran an out cut that he threw high. The next drive they ran a tunnel, and USC just ate it up. And then third series they come out, and that's when you hit the touchdown pass to Chris Tyree. So I actually think, and at that point in time, it's 31-13, and it's like, okay, now you can just don't do anything stupid. Don't, throw an interception. Don't give them a short, so I actually think the offense was a little bit more aggressive than maybe we're giving them credit for. You're not going to put up and when we talk about the 252 yards, it's a little misleading because of the fact that they had a 13-yard touchdown drive, a 2-yard touchdown drive, a 50-yard touchdown drive. I mean, they were getting short. The defense gave them some short fields tonight. They did still average over 5 yards a play. Now, against USC, that's not good enough because this defense sucks. It just does. So I also want to put the context in that. But it wasn't a bad performance from the offense. It wasn't a great performance by any stretch. They did what they needed to do. And there were some execution mistakes that, to me, could have let the offense go. I'm like, again, run your route to the sticks. That's what I'm kind of getting tired of from the offense. It's stuff like that. That's right. We got rid of the penalties. Great. But it's just like 3rd and 7. There's no back or inside of you. The safety's way back. He's pedaling. Run to the sticks on your option route. It's like, but I don't want to crush him too hard because he's been your best pass game weapon the last month of the season in Mitchell Evans. You know what I mean? It's like he's done a lot of good things. And then he dropped the ball the next time. I mean, stuff's going to happen, right? I mean, he didn't have a good game tonight, but I thought he blocked well, right? But I don't know, like Ryan, I don't know what your thoughts are. I didn't love the offensive game plan. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, Jared Parker sucks tonight. Look, the circumstances put them in some situations where they didn't have a whole lot of long fields tonight.
Yep. They started on averaged on their own 47. So that's a tremendous field position.
Yeah. It's never as good as you think. It's never as bad as you think. The middle ground exists, right? I think that for me, was the offense flashy or spectacular? Absolutely not. Were they dreadful though? I disagree. I don't think they were dreadful because I would say for me is that one, the numbers aren't going to look sexy just for the simple fact of there were a lot of short fields. And when USC had the ball, they were running a lot of plays, right? Like there were some sustaining drives that ended with interceptions or stalled out in midfield, like that type of thing. So yeah, I don't think Notre Dame had a ton of possession just in general in this game. And when they did have a lot of possession, usually it was a shorter field, right? Which is limiting as far as how many plays you're going to have and that type of thing and being able to really get into a rhythm type of situation. So I think was the offense bad? No. Was it good? Also, no. It was fine, right? It was fine enough to win. It has to be better. There's no doubt about that. But I don't sit here and feel like the offense was the dreadful mess that we saw last week. I think it was definitely better than that. Definitely better than that.
Agreed.
I think that's fair. I mean, Vince, I love your statistic. Ryan, to back up your point, USC had the ball tonight for 34 minutes and 35 seconds.
Yep.
Because here's the thing, Notre Dame, one of the keys, Ryan, you and I talked about was you got to limit the big plays, and Notre Dame did a great job of limiting the big plays. They made USC work, and when a team has to work, eventually you make a play or they make a mistake. And here's the thing, Notre Dame's offense didn't do that tonight. Like they made some mistakes like that like did not run the option, but there weren't the big mistakes. There weren't the turnovers, the quarterback. They asked Sam Hartman to manage the game tonight. He did. They asked the offensive line, no mistakes. They didn't. They got a decent push against loaded boxes. There was nothing special tonight. And I'll say this, like if we're talking about like, is tonight going to be good enough to beat Georgia? I'll say, look, if the defense plays like that, then sure, it might be. But there's some things you got to figure out. And we'll dive, Vince, you and I will dive more into this tomorrow. the end of the day, Ryan, they did what they needed to do. And I think the biggest takeaway from tonight's game is something we have not seen from the offense in recent weeks. They needed to answer in a couple key moments. And I'll say 3 big moments tonight for the offense. And for all the issues they had beginning to end, there were 3 big moments for the offense tonight. And they went 3 for 3 on touchdowns. The first short field, the second short field, guys, your first goal
the 1 yard line.
You're freaking scoring.
Or 2, yeah.
Right?
Right.
But the first touchdown at the 13-yard line, that's not a given that you're going to get 7. Right? It's not. It's not a given. And they punched it in. The second time, Ryan, is the one you and I talked about. It was the Benjamin Morrison interception.
So they're about 50 yards away, or
17-3.
Like
yeah. It was 17-3, and you needed 7 there.
Yep.
And they went down and put 7 on the board. And it was, Notre Dame drives, touchdown. It was a 50-play drive for 50 yards. So their first 2 touchdown drives were 12 yards and 2 yards. And then that was a 50-yard drive. You needed that. And then the last one was when USC scored, Ryan, to make it 24-13. You answered with that touchdown, that drive. You got a couple drives, and then that first down. I think those all were yes, there's a lot that the offense still leaves a little bit to be desired. But in those 3 big moments, they answered and got 7 every time, and they had to work for them. And that was a big part of this game.
Yeah, I kind of like what I said, B. Just what you just said, the special teams touchdown, the offensive line kind of getting back on track. This game went exactly the way it needed to go for Notre Dame in a lot of different ways. It really did. And, I'm a pessimist when it comes to USC. Beating USC is not big to me. Dude, USC hasn't won in Notre Dame Stadium since 2014. Like,
this was the best team that they've brought to Notre Dame in a while, though. Complete team or just the best quarterback? The best team. It's the most dangerous team. Because here's why, Sean. The 2011 team was a good team. They went like 10-4. The 13 team was not very good. The 15 team was 8-6. The 17 team was probably the closest to this team. And that's where you could find some to debate, Sean. I don't think that team was as dynamic as this team is, but they had a very good receiving core that year. It was like Tyler Vaughn's 17. That would have been Michael Pittman. Like, you had a pretty good receiving core, but that defense was not good, and neither is this one. But when you talk about the combination of Lincoln Riley's way better than Clay Helton, and the fact that you had Caleb Williams on his team, and you're pretty good at running back, you're pretty good at receiver, I think this team is better than that team. But this is at worst is the second best team that they've brought. And the interesting thing is, Sean, the 2 best team in 19 team wasn't very good. That was a 6-loss team, and Notre Dame won ugly in that game. And then the 21 game they didn't have because the 20 game, actually, that would have been out there. 21 was not a very good team either. That was the team that went 4-8 and got the guy fired. The interesting thing is all of those games in 13 and 15 and 19 and 21 against bad teams were all way more competitive than the 2 games when USC was the best. And I think that says something about this Notre Dame team, that this is still a rivalry, because when USC has brought their best teams into this stadium, Notre Dame has worked them both times.
That goes to what Ben said. USC doesn't want this physical smoke.
No.
They don't. Like, wasn't it 2 years ago, Vince, when they interviewed one of the USC players and told him the temperature was going to be in the 40s?
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
And his face was like, for real?
Like that, he might as well said -17. Like,
exactly.
Yeah. Right.
And 40.
They were comprehensible to him. He's like, never even 40. I don't even know what that means.
Dude, it was in the 50s the majority of the game, I'm pretty sure. Low 50s, like 50, 51, whatever. I mean, those USC guys, I mean, they were they were covered up. All you could see was like their eyes. You know, I mean, you would have. Good luck in the Big Ten, fellas. Like that's all I've got to say. You better start recruiting the Midwest if you guys are going to compete at all past like October 1st. Like that was pathetic, man. Like, come on.
Yeah, but smacking around USC at home is what we do. That's what we do.
I get that, but it's still. I mean, Sean, you have a different dynamic in your relationship with USC because your dad's a USC fan.
True.
And he corrupted your daughter into being a USC fan. I say jokingly, but when you bring your rival and the number 10 team in the country to your place and your team is reeling and you do this, that matters.
Now I get.
Yeah,
beating them like this means something. I picked Notre Dame to win this game. Heck, Vegas picked Notre Dame to win this game. 30 minutes after Louisville trounced Notre Dame, Vegas picked Notre Dame to win this game.
That, you know what? Ryan and I were talking about this before the game, Sean. Like Ryan and Vince did not pick USC or did not pick Notre Dame to win the game, which I understand because here's why. They watched last week's game. Right, like
and the week before, it was the offense. It was like
exactly
like what offense is going to show up? Like that was my biggest worry.
Really surprised me, Ryan. Here's what I'm hoping comes out of this game. My hope is even though the offense didn't light the world on fire, like they're going to look at 48 points. That was not on the offense, right?
Yeah.
I mean, but the thing is, I'm hoping that the fact that they did answer those 3 moments that I talked about, Ryan. And the fact that they did hit some big plays. We saw some different things from them. My hope is that this bye week, this momentum, and then going into the bye week can get this team going. Because you and I talked about it on Thursday. This team needs a shot of confidence on offense. And I don't know that tonight makes them thinking like, we're going to score 70 the rest of the year. But I do think it was a step in the right direction. And I get the frustration that some in the chat have. I really do. And Vince, you and I will get more detailed into the missed opportunities tomorrow night. But Ryan, they did what they needed to do, and that was the key. And I hope that can be a momentum builder for this unit.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think if you came into this game feeling bad about the offense, I don't think you leave this game feeling good about the offense. Like that's not going to change your opinion. It's just you beat your bitter rival at home after you just got smacked by Louisville last week, and that's why it matters, right? And I think winning injects confidence just in general at the end of the day. So hopefully it takes the next level. I mean, it's some of these chats are just wild, man. Just can't do some of this stuff, man. Hopefully
it's the same guy.
It goes back to what I always say, Vince. You watch the offensive line play week after week.
Yep.
There's no unit in college football that has the pressure that Notre Dame's offensive line has had for the last 15 years. Like every big game, the Notre Dame offensive line has to play well, or else Notre Dame has no shot. No other unit in the country has that amount of pressure.
You want to hear something I was told tonight, Sean? I had somebody tell me tonight before the game. I swear. He said the reputation for Harry is that he built great individual players, but he never built great lines.
That 2018 line was pretty darn good.
17 line was really good.
17,
15 line was really good. The 14 offensive line gave up 8 sacks the entire freaking season. The 18 offensive line was pretty good. After losing all those players, you lost McGlinchey, you lost Q, and Bars gets hurt in game like 5, and you go undefeated. Dexter Williamson ran for 1,400 yards that year if he didn't get hurt. So some of the stuff you hear, man, it's just pretty wild. But I'll say this, Sean.
With that pressure, the way they were, because you can look at the numbers tonight and offensively turn your face up or frown. Notre Dame won the way they're going to win offensively.
Yeah.
Until change takes place.
Bingo.
That's the way it's going to happen.
My concern is here's my concern, big picture, Sean, that this is how Marcus Freeman thinks he can win at Notre Dame. That my only negative takeaway from the game tonight is I think that tonight gives Marcus Freeman even more reason to think that he can win being Ohio State 2006 and 7 and 5 when he played there. That you can score, 31 points a game. You play great defense, and that's fine. You can beat a USC team, and somebody just put in the chat, like General Shadow said, I have a stat y'all will love. USC came tonight against Notre Dame with a combined opponent record of 10-24. Yeah, bro, we talked about this like several days ago. Like, I mean, we knew this. This is what part, you know what I mean? Like, I sometimes I think games like tonight can give you a false sense of, yeah, we can do it this way. Because I think to your point, Sean, the changes are still needed. I'm not talking about personnel wise, like coaches and all that. I'm just saying, like, philosophically, you can't count on your defense to do against Caleb Williams every game against guys like that. What it did against Caleb Williams. I don't think you can do it.
I think me personally, and Ryan, I'm interested in hearing what you say. If I look at the quarterbacks they've recruited and the wide receivers they've recruited or are talking to in the next two classes, I can see the change based upon who they're recruiting. Now, whether or not that change actually takes place,
right?
But I can look at a Cam Williams and say, okay, all right, because this is, you take the top off with him, like,
right.
And the two quarterbacks they have are not game managers.
No,
they can affect the game.
I say
with
three.
Kenny,
CJ,
and
Deuce.
CJ, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, the offense, and I think he said it last year, like, we're running an offense that we need to run to win now, but it won't be the offense in the future. I don't know if that was the exact quote, but
it's
something
it
along
sums
those
it up.
lines.
It sums it up. Yeah, it sums it
up. So, I just think the excitement was because of Sam Hartman offensively. Yeah. Just going back to the fact that Sam Hartman was the quarterback, and it still feels like in order for Notre Dame to be efficient offensively, everything has to be perfect, starting with the offensive line. And that is when we critique the offensive line, I feel sometimes critiquing them is fine game by game. But in the big picture, what they mean to this program and have meant to this program, and you watch other offensive lines across college football, like, you go watch college football every Saturday. It's some dreadful offensive line play. Dreadful. And Notre Dame, honestly, has not had the difference makers at the skill positions. They just haven't. So once you improve that as a program, hopefully that alleviates the pressure on the offensive line. But, they still recruit offensive line at a very high level.
And I love the class they got coming in next year too, man.
So I'm like, man,
Sean, to your point, man, I mean, talking about the future, we talk a lot about Cam Williams and those guys, but I mean, I'm also thinking of, like, when Charles Jagasaw and Sullivan Absher and Sam Pendleton and Gearby Lambert and Peter Jones and Anthony Knapp and, so we'll hopefully get there. Guys, what we need to do is first of all, I was so happy for Jadarian Price tonight. Like, that was so huge. So huge. Awesome. Great response by the offense on that one. So 31-20, or special teams 31-20, and he takes it to the house. Great answer by the special teams. We got to give some game balls, fellas. We didn't give game balls. And so let's hand out some game balls. And I will say this. I'm going to, because it's 1 o'clock in the morning, I want to make it easy on y'all. You can pick more than one on defense, right? So let's start with defense. Mr. Roberts, who has been pulling double duty tonight, y'all. He keeps looking down at his phone. He's been texting recruits, doing all that stuff tonight. So he's doing double duty tonight. We're all just kind of chilling in the chat. Ryan's doing double duty. So I appreciate that, Ryan. So I'm going to kick it off with you, man. Who gets your game balls for the Notre Dame defense to start off with?
I mean, I would like to just give it to the Notre Dame defense. I mean, as an all-around effort, I guess if I had to spot someone, I would go with Xavier Watts. I mean, it's impressive. I mean, it's impressive enough to have 2 interceptions, but the fact that you also were the run support player you were, forced a fumble, scored a touchdown off a fumble return. It's hard to argue, man. He stuffed the stat sheet tonight. And I honestly think that the safety position has been pretty lackluster over the last couple games, and they needed this
Huge.
outing from the safety position. So I'll go with Xavier Watts for that fact alone.
How about you, Sean?
I was thinking. I was mulling it over.
You didn't want us to hear the thoughts coming out.
This might shock a lot of people, but they had a big fourth down stop. Had some big plays in the run game. I'm going to go ahead and give my player of the game to J.D. Bertrand. My game ball.
Can't go wrong there.
I'm going to give it to J.D. Bertrand. And I have been critical of J.D. Bertrand a lot. But today, he came up with some big plays. He was very much in tune with Al Golden on checks at the line of scrimmage and making sure everything was set. So, yeah, I'll give my game ball to J.D. Bertrand.
How about you, Vince? And I gave you guys a chance. You can pick more than one on defense.
Well, I think
you guys both went with one. How about you, Vince?
Look, we've all picked Xavier Watts. Like that's like a given. Okay. So I'll just put that out there, right?
That's a community pick. Where Ryan set the community pick for everybody else. I got you.
Okay. Yeah. So, look, come on, man. I got to go with Cam Hart. I thought he and it's kind of a season compilation award as well. But he played really, really, really well tonight. Forced fumble, had a tackle for loss. I mean, they weren't really going at him tonight. I mean, they tried to pick on Benjamin Morrison a little bit. Obviously, he made him pay with that interception because he peeled off of his guy and made that pick, which was awesome. But, I'm telling you, man, Notre Dame's got the best 1-2 punch at corner. And you throw in Harper as well. And 1 through 3, man, I would put them up against just about anybody in the country. And Cam Hart is not getting the pub that he deserves at this point. And, he's playing,
all
man.
year long.
Yes, he is playing his way into some money.
The last couple teams that Notre Dame has played, Vince, including tonight, they're all throwing at Benjamin Morrison.
Right. Yes.
Because they don't want to throw at Cam. And his run defense has been phenomenal. He's forced now 2 fumbles and a fumble in each of the last 2 games. If I had to pick one guy, I'm going with Xavier Watts. I mean, Ryan, you kind of nailed it. I mean, 3 turnovers, right? I mean, huge. And every turnover resulted in points. And that's a big part of what the offense did tonight too, guys. Is just when you force turnovers, they got 7 every time they force turnovers. Now, of course, the defense said, we'll take care of this one on our own.
Right.
But if you can only pick one, it's Xavier Watts. My 3 was going to be JD. It was going to be back to front, Xavier, JD, and Riley Mills. That was going to be my 3. Riley Mills was excellent tonight.
Oh, yeah.
But then you're like, well, how do you leave Cam out? Well, how do you leave Howard Cross out? Like, how do you leave Javonte Jean-Baptiste out? That was so great about tonight, guys, is there were so many guys that you could easily give that to, but the 3 that I thought just consistently did the most impactful. And the reason I can't go with Cam, Vince, is because they just avoided him. Now, you could say that could lead to why there were so many opportunities for Thomas Harper and Xavier Watts, and that's a great point. But just the other guys just made so many impact plays. It was huge. I mean, JD had the 4th down. He had another play that he had a great 3rd down stop. They tried to run outside of him, and he just hawked the running back to the sideline and tackled him short of the 4th down. And then I think actually, didn't he make the stop on 3rd down and 4th down on that drive, if I remember correctly? I think he did. So he stops the guy on the outside run short of the sticks to bring up the 4th down in space and then blows up the 4th down run. It's like, that was huge. So there were just so many different guys tonight. Somebody just said Jalen Sneed. Jalen made big plays tonight. There were just so many guys that stepped up tonight, guys, that there's really nobody that I'm going to really just disagree with you guys about. It just was a big time team performance on the defense. And so
awesome.
A lot of deserving guys. Special teams wise, I got to go Jadarian Price, although I'm going to give a runner-up to Bryce McPherson, not for his punting, because I thought his punting was a little inconsistent tonight, too many line drives.
Well, and I think that was planned, though.
It looked like
You know what I
But
mean?
him
Yeah,
hawking
but anyway.
Zechariah Branch was pretty freaking awesome.
People need to go back and watch that play.
Yeah.
Yo,
because
that was crazy.
He ran with the return man for like 30 yards and then closed on him and made a heck of a tackle. Like that was an athletic as heck play, man. I was very, very impressed with that. And then on the flip side of that, watching Price take the kickoff return back and then watching USC's kicker flail like a fish out of water.
Yes.
That I mean, just the difference between the two was striking.
Kicker and punter are athletic dudes. I mean, Spencer Schrader's like an athletic looking dude.
Oh,
and
totally.
Your boy Bryce McPherson showed tonight, like he's not just some nerdy specialist, right? Like, he's a good athlete. It's like Notre Dame's like Jonathan Dorr was a pretty good athlete. Jay Brandon was a pretty good athlete. Tyler Newsom was a pretty good athlete. Justin Yoon was actually a hockey player. Did you guys know that? Justin Yoon grew up playing hockey. So, like, again, he was a good athlete. I mean, he wasn't like a football, like he wasn't the kind of athlete like, like some of the Notre Dame guys have been, but I mean, he was an athletic guy. So props to them. And Marty Biaggi needed that. He needed that. The special teams has been a problem.
He got a hug from Marcus Freeman after
that
one. And it's like it just felt like he needed it. Like he needed that hug at that point.
This unit just hasn't made a lot of plays this year.
Sure.
It's been rough, and you gave up the long punt return. He needed that.
There's been some questionable, plan of attack from the special teams, right?
Well, and the kick return unit's been so bad. I mean, even before the long return, they had several. Devin Ford had a couple good returns. They gave him the ball past the 30.
Yep.
Yeah.
They have to go to that 3-back look a little bit more, man. I don't know.
And Jalen Sneed, I mean, if he puts his arm in the right place, he probably blocks the punt.
Yeah,
it's close.
Like, he was right there, instead of picking up the penalty. So, they were inches away from blocking a punt tonight. Like you said, Devin Ford had 2 returns that were really good, and then they finally popped one. And
don't forget about the about Robo leg hitting every kick tonight too, man, or whatever they're calling him nowadays.
They were all right down the middle too. Like
he hit 2, right? He hit 2 tonight.
Yeah, I was more nervous about the 37-yarder than anything. I was like, oh Lord.
He nailed it though, Sean. Right down the middle.
Too close. Take a penalty. Move it back.
Yeah. Saw Nolan Ziegler tonight, guys. I don't know if you saw that, but Nolan Ziegler was on some of the returns, the kick coverage units tonight at times as well. So it was great to see him back tonight, which was
he was right next to Drake on the cover.
Yeah. Yep. So it was good to see him. It was good to see him back and getting through the stuff he's gotten through. So it was really good to see him back. So those are our game balls, fellas. We do have some super chats. If you guys are down to kind of work through some of those. Ryan, if you need to run, because I know you got some recruiting stuff to still finish up, you can at any point in time. Just go ahead and take off. But if you'd like to stay, I'd love for you to stay. And we'll get rocking and rolling. So let's get going. We've got Paulie B to start off with.
All right, I'm reading them.
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
Paulie B 27. Here we go. Love the Notre Dame. Man, does it feel good to kick the crap out of SC. Go Irish. We call them Southern Cal. All right, that's what we call them.
So, did you guys see, Vince? Did you see? I don't know if you two guys saw the stat sheet, but did you see on Notre Dame's the media stats, like the live thing that they had actually had Notre Dame and Southern Cal? It's freaking beautiful.
Oh yeah. And they put it everywhere. They put it everywhere. It was on the flip card. It was on the stat thing. It was like
because I've been told that USC hates being called Southern Cal.
Yes.
They hate that.
We're leaning right into it. Well,
so
Notre Dame is. We are too.
Yeah. And Sean Stiers, every time he writes a story that he sends to me, it says Southern Cal. I even had to change a couple of them because I was like, okay, this one, let's not do that. So
I love it. Love it. Connor Burt. Thank you very much. With the $28 super chat.
Yeah.
Is there a reason for that one, I wonder?
Just read the super chat.
Oh, for points off turnovers. See, it helps if I read. I'm telling you, man, I need a script. I like to proofread things. All right. He says 28 for points off turnovers. Great win tonight and enjoyable to watch. Thanks for all the coverage to bask in the win tonight and go Irish.
That was huge, man. Loved it.
Reading is key. All right.
It's all good.
Sean Stewart.
It's fundamental. Reading.
Yeah, it is fun.
It's fundamental.
It is fun to know. Yes. Coach said, this is from Sean Stewart. Thank you very much. Coach said that they had a sour taste in their mouth and they played like it. Go Irish. Should have happened a couple of weeks ago.
That's a thing. I mean, yes, it should have, but I'll say this: it didn't. And how they're going to respond to it? They played pissed off tonight, guys. I mean, that's
they
really
did.
the best way to sum it up.
Yeah,
like,
they really did
on all phases of the game, but especially on defense, and even special teams, even a little bit. Like they looked a little extra aggressive on. I mean, they haven't come close to blocking a kick all year, Sean. And you talked about they almost got the one, and there was a couple others. They were rushing that punter a little bit.
Yeah,
the crowd. It definitely got the crowd. Oh, I mean, they were in the neighborhood of blocking.
Yeah, I've seen that all year. They played pissed off, and you know what? I wish this Notre Dame team would play pit. That was the great thing about the Lou Holtz era guys, and Sean and you and I especially can remember that era because we're older than the other guys by a little bit. But Lou Holtz was great at. I mean, his great teams just played that way. They the '93 team from Northwestern on just played pissed off. The first game they didn't play pissed off, in my opinion, it's Boston College. Because they just beaten Florida State, and they finally felt like we've arrived. But that team played pissed off. The '88 team played pissed off all year. Just play with swagger. Just played like us against the world. Nobody think, and I would like to see Coach Freeman find a way to kind of keep that more so, where this team just plays like, you know what? We're pissed about something, and we're going to take it out on you. And this team had every reason in the world to come in here and lay an egg and say the season's over with, and we lost. We're not in the playoff. We're upset. We're tired. We had midterms. We've played 8 straight games. We haven't had a bye. Every excuse that all the fans were trying to give them all week, this team could have taken those, and they said, "Screw that. I don't care. We're playing number 10 team in the country. We're pissed." And we're the better football team, and they played like it from start to finish.
Yep,
they played like it.
Heck, the '89 team played angry.
Yes,
right. You tell the story. Samoji told you, rest in peace. Like that Miami game was on Lou Holtz.
Yeah,
he actually pulled the reins on his guys.
He didn't want to be getting fights, and he didn't want a repeat of '88 because he took so much crap in the media for about how things went. But like Notre Dame's the defending national champion, Sean, about why they were pissed off, and they start the season ranked number 2.
Yeah,
they're pissed because a lot of dudes were coming back. They were pissed, and poor Sean Moore felt the wrath of it. I felt bad for him, because that was a really good Virginia team that year. I mean, they finished in the top 20. That Virginia team finished 10-3.
Yeah,
if you remember that, Sean Moore, Herman Moore, Chris
Moore.
Slade, I believe, was on that team. And that was Terry Kirby was a running back on that team. That was a really good football team, but they played pissed off.
They were young. Because I think they were like sophomores, that Virginia team. Because once they hit 91, they had matured, and they were like, number 1 until they lost to Georgia Tech that year, I believe. So, but no, I've been saying it. Get out in front and see. That's another point with playing USC. USC is really good at tackles for losses and sacks because they play from out front, and they make teams one-dimensional. And they just pin their ears back and go. Arizona, look, the week before, Arizona jumped out in front, and when you jump out in front, you're able to run the ball and be balanced on offense. And you can control their pass rushers, and you can control their defense a little bit. But if you allow them to get out to that 2-touchdown lead that they're used to getting off to, now you're in trouble because that plays to their strength, the only strengths they have defensively, right? But once Notre Dame got out in front, I'm sorry, Vince. Once Notre Dame got out in front, it was. That's all they needed to do to kind of control things from here on out.
It was very interesting to me. You can tell that USC is not used to bringing up the rear, right? They're not used to chasing points because the way they were running their offense in the fourth quarter wasn't like a team that was down multiple scores. Like they were using almost the entire play clock. They were running the football. It was like they didn't know how to come back. They didn't know how to conserve drives and go down and score. And they've got all the talent in the world to go down and score fast, but they just weren't it's like they just, I wasn't it. It was you, Brian, I think, that brought this up. It was like in the movie Miracle when Russia was losing and they look over and he's like, he doesn't know what to do.
He's like pulling his goalie and he's like, he doesn't know what to do.
Yeah.
That's
they didn't know what to do being down by more than one score. Like it was like they're never going to come back running the football 3 times in a row and letting the play clock go down to single digits every play. Like the clock is not your friend here. But they just continued to run what their offense was, and it just wasn't going to work. So it was impressively bad offensively coming from behind because we know who Caleb Williams is and what he can do. Now, Notre Dame had him on his heels all night long. There's no doubt about that. I mean, he, as quarterbacks say, right, Brian, he was seeing ghosts. Because everywhere he turned, he saw blue shirts. I mean,
he was getting out of the pocket early on plays, and it's just like, and then
100%.
There's a couple times it's like he's looking like he's about to run, and all of a sudden some linebacker or safety comes flying out of nowhere, and he's like, that's never happened to him because he plays in a league that is about skill and offense and all that. He doesn't play in a league that they don't really have the physicality that the Pac-12. There's no.
They have one team that plays that way, maybe 2.
Utah
and Oregon State.
Well, UCLA does too, but they haven't played any of those teams yet, right? But what I was going to say is there's no Stanford from 2010, 2011, 2012. No. Even those other teams, they're not that. And Notre Dame, they hadn't played a physical team like this. The closest that they had seen was Arizona last week. Arizona's probably got the best. Arizona has the best defense they've played this year. And again, they held them to 20 points, and they needed a long punt return to even get to that.
Yeah.
So it was big.
And the coaching staff definitely coached much better than Jed Fisher and that Arizona coaching staff in the second half. Arizona should have won that game. They should have won that game.
Trevor Rocket from north of the border. It's been a crazy 4-week stretch for the squad and IB Nation, but nothing is sweeter than whipping that sorry ass team from out west. I'll say it. I agree.
Okay.
There's a high school kid in this area, and there was a rivalry game or whatever, and he said it best, and this covers any rivalry. It goes in order: hugs from your mom and beating your rival. Like that's the order right there, man. And I'll tell you what, beating USC it's right up there, man. Like I hate USC. That's my biggest. Like Michigan, I don't like them. Ohio State, sure, whatever. Beating USC, man, is like, oh yes, like just desserts.
I don't know if you saw this, but Ryan Abraham, who covers USC, and a couple of other beat reporters had a discussion on Twitter after the game.
Okay,
and they basically were saying, you could tell from this week's press conferences that Lincoln Riley doesn't understand the rivalry.
No, because I don't think he's long for it, Sean.
Yeah.
Look, I've been saying this, Sean. You know this. I've been saying this since he took that job. I said he's taking this job to get the right NFL job.
Yeah.
Because when he left, he didn't want to stay at Oklahoma.
No.
And there wasn't like the NFL jobs I think he really coveted open at the time.
I could see that. Yeah, I could see that.
And I said, this is the job that's going to kind of get him in a little bit more of a spotlight, get out in LA, and he's going to dominate a weak league.
Yeah.
Because I don't think he anticipated Kalen DeBoer coming into the league and what Oregon State would be, and some Dan Lanning coming into the league and things like that. But
he doesn't want any part of the Big Ten, man. He doesn't want any part of the Big Ten. I'm telling you.
No, and not that he's afraid of the Big Ten, but like, I don't want to freaking play my Novembers in the Midwest.
Right. Yes,
exactly. But the point is, Sean, I think you nailed it. Like he does not understand what this game means, and last year gave him a false sense of sort of what his mind can do to Notre Dame. And you and I talked about this all offseason, Sean. I still want to know what that game would have looked like last year if they had Cam Hart, Drake Bracey. I will
absolutely,
absolutely. You know what I mean?
Yep. Absolutely.
Just avoid Benjamin Morrison the whole game. You couldn't today. You couldn't today. And how would the game plan have changed if he had those guys, right?
Oh,
I mean, those are things that you look at. And he came into this game basically thinking that they were going to do the same thing they did last year. He tried to hit him with those slashing running plays. And that's the biggest thing, guys, that we saw from this game is like they just physically beat USC's behind up front.
Yeah.
I mean, they couldn't run the ball. They could not run the football.
Yeah.
And as I pointed out earlier, guys, when we were kind of going over the stats, the two running backs for USC, Marshawn Lloyd came in averaging like over 7 yards, almost 8 yards a carry on the season. Him and Austin Jones came in. Marshawn was at 7.8 yards per carry. Austin Jones was a 6.5. Marshawn went for 5.8 because he had the 31-yard run. His other 7 runs went for 15 yards. Austin Jones, who had over 150 yards against Notre Dame last year. Actually, what was the specific number? He had 154. Yeah, 150. He went for 27 yards on 11 carries. That's what they did tonight, right? I mean, 27 of their yards came from the receivers on jet sweeps. That was their 2 best runs of the night outside of the one to Marshawn. And it was because they physically got beat up. And I think that's the thing that Lincoln Riley doesn't understand. Because his biggest rivalry at Texas, they were never physical. It was always about skill on skill. Is our skill better than your skill? You know, it was Kyler Murray versus Sam Erlinger. It was never about, we're going to punch you in the face and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
And Vince, that's where it came to. He didn't know. He had no clue what buttons to push.
No.
And this is why I've always said, guys, Lincoln Riley, in my opinion, is one of the best, if not the best offensive mind in college football. But I have been telling you both for years, he's not a great head coach.
No.
Right.
This game is exactly why. Marcus Freeman's team was the only team on the field tonight that had anything to play for from a postseason standpoint, like championship-wise, was USC. You'd have thought Notre Dame was the team looking to build their resume for the playoff.
Yeah.
Like, and Marcus Freeman flat out, we talk about Al Golden, but Marcus Freeman's the guy who got his team ready to come play tonight. Marcus Freeman's the one that pushed the buttons during the week to come out during the week, and he handed Lincoln Riley an absolute beatdown. Because if we're being honest, they should have beat Notre Dame by way more than 11 points last year. Way more than 11 points last year. When you consider that Drew Pine, a quarterback, all the injuries they had on defense, you know, all that kind of stuff. And Notre Dame came out tonight and beat their flipping butts all night long.
Yes, I learned something new about this rivalry this year. Like, I never knew that USC takes over Navy Pier every other year.
Oh, yeah.
It has a pep rally.
I've been there.
I live in Chicago.
I've been there.
And you've been there? I never knew that happened.
My cousin is a USC grad, and I met her in Chicago back when I was in college, and we went to Navy Pier, and I went in, and it is a massive deal. It is a massive deal, and the band is there. Like it is. I mean, it makes you want to puke if you're a Notre Dame fan, but like I was shocked that it was as big as it is, considering how far away USC is, to be honest with you. But you're right. Yeah. They take over Navy Pier. And I think it's the Friday before.
Friday before.
Yeah. It was actually impressive.
Yeah. So when I found out about that, I was like, yo, this rivalry is pretty big. It means a lot. And you could tell by the amount of players on both sides that were there tonight.
Yeah. Oh,
USC, old USC players, old Notre Dame players. You could tell. Like, it still means a lot. So,
but I don't think it, and I think part of the problem is it does not mean a lot to the USC head coach.
No.
And therefore, I don't know that it really meant a lot to the USC players.
Yeah.
Like, they just, I don't think they were prepared.
Well,
and I think Notre Dame gave them a false sense of security based on what Notre Dame had done the last 2 weeks, especially last week against Louisville.
Well, and there's a lot of transfers at USC, and you know what I mean? It's kind of like a one and done, a lot of one and dones, and so they don't.
My buddy likes to call them mercenaries. Like you're hiring mercenaries. They're not really in it for the cause.
Yeah, man. Yep, I agree, and that's the problem. Well, I don't want to get on my soapbox, but that's one of the problems with these transfer rules is that they're not bought into the traditions that are college football, and that's a stinking shame. But anyway.
All right, let's go to the next one from Kevin O'Neill.
Kevin O'Neill. Freeman predicted a special teams return in the pregame interview. Gotta love him. Big win reminiscent of 2017.
Yeah, I mean, look, they clearly saw something, Sean, in this game because they were aggressive with their kick return all night long. There was twice I thought they were about to pop one, and those were both was Devin Ford, and Devin Ford's a nice player. He doesn't have Jadarian Price's juice.
No,
I mean, Jadarian he can get through that line, man.
Right.
But yeah, you could tell that, and the fact that they had three, because Vince, you and I are sitting there at the beginning of the game, and we're like, they had the weirdest kick return formation I've ever seen in a normal kickoff. They had 5 guys up front, 3 guys on the next line, and then 3 guys standing at the 10-yard line. 3 running backs.
He explained it.
Line.
Somebody asked him about it in the presser, and I don't know if you heard the response, but he basically said it was because of what they thought the weather was going to be, and you just didn't really know where the ball was going to end up with the wind and the rain and all that. So that's why they put 3 guys back to make sure they could field it. Which
they saw something.
Yeah,
they saw something from USC
because they could have easily gone back and done their normal return.
Yeah.
When they realized it wasn't going to be raining, right? But they stuck with the 3 back. I'm very curious to see if they stick with the 3 back in 2 weeks.
Yeah,
but
we'll see. We'll see. Well, I would imagine that the next time they play somebody, if that team has a kicker capable of kicking it out of the end zone, they're gonna we're not kicking it to 24 anymore.
That's fair too.
So
that's fair too.
Because he had, remember, this isn't the first time Jadarian's shown a little bit of juice. We talked about it last week. He was 1 guy away from popping one last week against Louisville on that one good return he had, like out past the 30. He was like, this guy. You can see his juices back. I mean, he's it's exciting. It's exciting.
Mike Farino, thank you very much. Amazing.
It's a resident Ohio State fan, so he's double excited for tonight. So it helped Ohio State's resume because Notre Dame got the W, and one of the undefeated teams that's contending is now knocked out. So I just want to give a little context to your guy, Mike Farino. So, and he hasn't been around as long as Archer, but Mike's been in the chat for a while. He's
nice.
He's a good,
awesome.
One of the good Ohio State fans. Right? I can't believe those exist. I want to thank Archer and Mike Farino for actually helping me realize that they actually do exist, because I didn't actually think that they did.
He says, amazing win. Thank you for ending the USC and Williams best QB prospect in history hype. Oh, it'll still be going, but they'll blame the offensive line or whatever. And he's a really good quarterback.
This has always been my problem, Vince, going all the way. Like I've said this, like I couldn't stand Tim Tebow in college, and it was never about Tim Tebow. It was never about Tim Tebow. It was about the way he was covered.
Right, for sure.
And just the constant, like, there's like every guy that comes along, it's like, oh, this guy's the general. No, he's a really good quarterback. He's the best quarterback in college football right now. Yeah. Right? Like,
Well,
like,
I'll tell you.
Let's just enjoy these kids instead of putting like these because then what happens is when you do that, now everybody's like, every time they don't have a good game, because who had games like Caleb Williams had tonight? About every other quarterback that ever played college football. I mean, nights like tonight happen. It was like 1 on 11 tonight, and
here's the thing though, Brian. I think a lot of other quarterbacks in his shoes tonight don't make some of the plays he did make. Right. Like there was some off balance throws, some sidearm stuff, like
the 4th and 1 conversion where he outran Xavier Watson the sideline.
Yeah, normal quarterbacks aren't doing that. I mean, I was still impressed with the way he played the game. Now, I don't like him as a person. I'm not a big fan of Caleb Williams, but I can still respect the way he plays.
You know what sucks about that? Well, let me ask you, is that because of the whole FND thing on his fingernails last year?
Well, that's definitely it's in the conversation.
Because if you actually talk to people that around that program, they'll say he's a great kid and he's a great leader, and he does like a lot of his NIL stuff. He gives to like charities. He does like he does. But that's why I've said this. That who I blame for that? I blame Lincoln Riley. You know what I mean? Because like you allowed that to happen. And so now there's this big swath of Notre Dame fans who rightfully only know Caleb Williams from that. Great talent, but he's that immature knucklehead that had FND and then F Utah on his fingernails. Yeah. And that's the thing is like, and that completely clouds the fact that other than that, everything that I've ever heard of anyone that knows the kid, hard worker, great teammate, great leader, very community service oriented. Yes. So that's the disappointing thing. But, he made that choice. Yeah. I just, I get it. It's just that's why the grown-ups in the room, and I said it last year, the grown-ups in the room need to step up and say no. And then they let him do it again a week later.
And it became like a big game day story.
Yeah. And
like,
so
you're promoting it. You're promoting it.
It bums me out because he made a stupid decision as a 19-year-old. And now there's just a lot of people that just think he's a punk. But he's not. He's actually like a really good kid. But those, I mean, especially now on social media, I mean, back in the day, we wouldn't have seen it because the picture was never clear enough to where we wouldn't have been able to see it on his fingers. But it's a really unfortunate thing. But hey, hey guys, things that we do in life have consequences, and that's just the reality of it.
And as a quarterback prospect, he's not hype.
Oh, he's big time.
He's really good.
So
his thing is the whole best quarterback prospect in history stuff, and that. Some of this stuff just gets so hyperbolic.
Who's saying it? Like draft experts?
Well, that's the problem. There's like 95,000 of them now.
Yeah, dude, the same draft experts said that Mitchell Trubisky was better than Deshaun and Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
So I mean, if you want to take draft experts that's serious, then
Sean, here's my problem. Okay, I just want to put this out there and be as petty as possible with this comment, but you live in Chicago. I'm a Bears fan. I already had to come to grips with the fact that I have to root for an Ohio State guy. Now I may have to root for a USC guy. Like
you won't. Starting tomorrow, Justin's going to put up another 300 yards.
Let me tell you something too, guys. Nobody's tanking.
Nobody's
tanking as well as the Broncos are tanking right now, fellas.
Ryan Poles was at the game tonight. Ryan Poles was at the game tonight.
Okay.
To watch Caleb. He was there.
I wish I would have seen him. I would have said something to him.
Look, Vince, I think I was on with Sean Stiers this week.
Yes.
And
thank you, by the way.
He asked the question. He said, "Yo, would you like the combination of Lincoln Riley and Caleb Williams in Chicago?" I said, "Absolutely not. I want no parts of Lincoln Riley. But my preference is to have Justin Fields just flat out play better and to once again control the draft because the Panthers are the worst team in the NFL."
Yep.
If you think we got a first round picks in the current draft, a first round pick the next year, and DJ Moore for Bryce Young, what do you think the asking price is going to be for Caleb Williams?
Right.
If the Bears they're going to control the draft once again and come away with an incredible package. So I want the hype to be at all-time high.
That's got to be the best case scenario. They need Justin Fields to finish, to show that I'm a franchise quarterback. That's what they need to do. Because to your point, Sean, if they somehow get the number one pick, and again, I'm telling you, the Broncos are going to try to out-tank the Panthers. I'm telling y'all right now.
Good luck with that one.
I know, right? But if Justin Fields says, "Hey, I can be that guy," then all of a sudden, like you said, Sean, you can pick up a whole lot of other pieces.
Absolutely.
With those additional picks. So
absolutely,
yeah, I get it.
And I understand, man. I don't really, athletes doing silly things, that might broach or step over the line and, lack humility and all of that. I get it. Dude, I was a Michael Jordan fan. That's the most non-humble superstar probably of all time.
That's an understatement.
It's like, dude. So that's why it kills me. Like, sports fans will talk about somebody else on a team that they don't like, but they love the dude that was on their team that was like the biggest jerk. Like,
Sean, you know what the best example of that is? You guys remember Major League 2? When Parkman was on the team and Bob Uecker was like, he does that thing that drives all the women in Cleveland nuts, like in a good way, and then he's with the White Sox because that all the he does that little shimmy that all the women in Cleveland hate. It's like that's just kind of how it is. You know what I mean? All right, let's get to the next one.
I understand. Vince, I get it. I understand.
I know you do. I know you do. Sean O'Hara with the big super chat. Thank you so much, Sean. It says, "Yay! Beat SC. Enjoy." Oh, I am. Don't worry. I'm gonna sleep.
Guys, I'm looking at Angela right now on TV.
What?
So, like after the game, they're interviewing Marcus, and she's like behind him, like taking photos. I can see her. It's hilarious.
That's funny.
She just told me that Sam Hartman took her out on that second quarter run. So me and Sam we have to have some words here this weekend. So,
no.
And he'll probably respond, "Well, tell your wife be athlete." So Be an athlete. Gotta get out of the way.
Yeah, you know,
That would be
ready.
funny.
He wouldn't be wrong. I'm gonna have to give her. I'm like, she's a really, really good high school soccer player. So I'm gonna have to give her bust her chops. Like, okay, babe, you got to do a little better than that. You got to head on the swivel on the sideline.
She's
Head
gonna
on
be
the
in the
swivel.
chat here yelling at you in a second. All right, Charlie Weiss's last belt loop. Thank you very much. What a much needed response from the last few weeks. What dominance from Al Golden and his defense. Please pay this man. There are some questions still on offense, but man, let's enjoy this one. Go ND. That's about the most sane thing I've heard all night.
Everybody's been trying to get this man fired for a year and a half.
I know.
And now we're talking about paying him.
I know.
So
it's fantastic. I love it.
Happy medium.
I love it.
Happy medium.
Yeah. Kevin Bugaj. Thank you very much. Only if we could have finished OSU, what could have been?
I mean, honestly, guys, if they just would have done what they needed to do against Louisville last week, I don't even care about the Ohio State.
Yeah,
because as
one
I've
or
said
the
all
other.
along, you beat Duke, you beat Louisville, you beat USC, you beat Clemson, and your only loss is a last play of the game lost to Ohio State. You're a playoff team.
You're in.
I mean,
you're in.
Last week was the game that bothered me, but hey guys, but they responded. Nothing we can do about last week's game except move forward, and they responded.
Nothing they can do about it either. And that's the thing. Kevin Fetters with the big super chat. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kev.
Evan, we all know the offense struggled, but wow, that Louisville game stings. But go Irish. Finish this thing 11-2. Let's go.
Yeah. No, that's the key. That's the key. They've got.
I'm still all about a New Year's Six bowl at this point. Let's go. Let's do this. Yeah. I'm ready.
I mean, that's part of moving forward. I mean, you got to go out and win the games you're supposed to win moving forward. That's the key.
Yep. Absolutely.
You got 4 of them left. Now you got to go out and win the games you're supposed to.
You got to win all 4 of them. You got to win them.
Build on this. This is the thing that Notre Dame has not done yet under Marcus Freeman, is building on this kind of win. They got close to it last year after Clemson, but they just couldn't beat USC. And they didn't, obviously they didn't do it, to win over Duke, but that wouldn't have been a huge program defining win. We talked during the week, guys. This is a program defining moment for Marcus Freeman. It's not going to be the end all be all, but it would have been hard to recover, in my opinion, in today's society where we're just so ready to just give up on people so quickly. Sometimes understandable, and his team, and he had his team ready to play. He flat out had his team ready to play tonight. I mean, they came out playing hard. They were focused, and there was still a lot of. What's funny? The side of the ball that made the most dumb mistakes tonight wasn't offense. It's the defense. Giving up a 2nd and 21. Twice you allowed USC to convert a 2nd and 20 something because of a penalty.
Yep.
Twice.
And that one drive was just littered with penalties.
The one, the only long scoring drive USC really had. It was just like, dude, what are you guys doing?
Penalty,
and that's what's funny is
they were all legit too, by the way.
Right, like the Benjamin Morrison penalty to the face. I mean, it wasn't a bad call. I mean, just what are you doing? Right. It's funny. It was the defense that did that, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, they were aggressive penalties, and I can live with those. And so I mean, this team was ready to play tonight, guys. I mean, just flat out ready to play tonight. And we got on Coach Freeman last week for the fact they weren't, and it was deserved. But I mean, they bounced back. He got this team ready. Al Golden got this unit ready. And they came out and they kicked butt. Marty Biaggi has done a mediocre at best job on special teams this year. This group made plays tonight, guys. Kudos to them. Because even the play that Bryce McPherson made, I know that USC eventually scored, but it's like they had to work to get that score. They had to run some minutes off the clock to get that score. Whereas you didn't get the automatic, oh, shoot, what a great punt return. We stopped you and you still had to work to get it. It's like everything was hard for USC tonight. Everything was hard for USC tonight on offense.
Yeah, it was.
And it took a few minutes off the clock. So, man, it was fun to watch. It was fun to watch.
Alan Watson for a dog bone for the puppy.
Thanks, Alan. They both got treats because so Rita was she kept jumping on me. She was whining like she wanted something. I knew she needed to go outside. She had eaten. She gets like that sometimes when Angela's not home. So when I went away from it, I went up there and got her a bone. And it's not a real bone, but it's like this little treat that's shaped like a bone. And so I give it to her. So then like 2 minutes later, so Sadie was upstairs. And so Rita must have taken that bone and ran right to Sadie and like ate it in front of her. Cause like 2 minutes later, Sadie comes running down, like jumping on my leg. So I knew exactly what she wanted. And so I had to go up here and get her one. So I appreciate that. But yes, I will, it will be a little, help me kind of buy some new ones because I had to give them extra treats tonight.
Joe, I feel like Joe's resident therapist during games because he's always messaging me, asking me questions and complaining. I love it, Joe. I appreciate it, man. Sometimes I answer back because I'm frustrated too. Great bounce back win. Always great to beat USC. Still not thrilled with the play calling. Parker isn't allowing Sam to be Sam, but great win. Go Irish.
I don't disagree with that. I mean, I think that's fair. I mean, part of it, though, is Sam's not willing to be Sam in the first half. I mean, he had guys open. He's got to let go to ball. That's why I'm really hoping, guys, that
he's got to get back to that.
Yeah, that some of the throws we saw him make are able to kind of spark him and getting him back to that. I'm really, really hoping for that. Really am.
Me too. David Carpenter, 48-20. Thank you very much. Appreciate that one. Defense showed up. Praying the offense feeds off the defense's juice. So nice to see the win. So happy for Marcus to get this much-needed victory. His fist pump and yell at the end said it all.
Oh, he was fired up.
I hope that's the one
he was at the end of the first half.
Oh, yeah, because he had to call that timeout.
Pissed off.
And they were up 24-3.
He was like barking all the way to the interview. Oh, he was pissed.
Yeah.
But no, he was fired up about tonight. He was.
I want to see them. I want to see the internet, replace the Brian Van Gorder fist pump with that fist pump because I like it a lot better.
Yeah. Agree. And a much better coach.
I mean, and human.
It's a low bar, but yes. Yeah,
I was going to say.
That's also very true.
It's also very a low bar. All right. Zach Martin, thank you very much for the super chat. Al Golden deserves a lot of love. His schemes versus the read option have been so fun. Used Riley with Duke. Now how he used the linebacker blitz, both regular and delayed, to contain Caleb. My man, killing it.
Yeah.
It's just you're absolutely right, Zach. It just cracks me up that Al Golden's head was on a skewer of a couple of weeks ago, it felt like. And
what it's kind of fun. First of all, his head should have never been on a skewer this season.
Agreed.
It's kind of funny, like, to see from some the inability to move on from season to season. It's like somebody asked me a question today on the chat. They're like, I don't understand, like, why you praised Coach Stuckey last year so much and you're ripping him this year. I'm like, what's not to understand? He did a good job last year. I don't think he's doing a good job this year. It's like just because you did a good job last year, or I may like you as a person, doesn't mean that I'm now just going to be like, not critical of you. And I didn't think Al Golden did a great job last year. I didn't, but he's doing a great job this year.
Yeah.
Now, I have some concerns about whether or not his way of coaching can be consistently good because it requires like 8 sixth-year seniors on your defense to be good. You know what I mean? They're a very experienced defense.
Right.
But look, he's done a great job this year. And some people just will not give him the credit because they didn't like the job he did last year because he doesn't recruit. And that's on him. But like this defense has been very good this year. Very good this year. They've played 8 games, and half of their games have been against ranked opponents. And they're giving up around, after tonight's game, let me just actually give you the exact number, because they were giving up 15 points a game coming into tonight. They only gave up 20 tonight. So on the season, Notre Dame's defense has given up 16.4 points per game. And they just played a team that was scoring 51 points a game. They held them to 20. And 7 of that 20 came off of a punt return that gave them a short field. What would it have been? It would have been a 18-yard touchdown drive is what USC had. 18-yard touchdown drive. Notre
Dame going into tonight was 15th overall in scoring defense in the country.
Yeah. Well, and that's a number that will be better next. Like if they stay around that number, it'll be better because you've still got some teams that have not played anybody yet. Like Michigan's given up 6.7 points per game.
Correct.
Penn State's giving up 9.6. That's
yeah.
It's going to change as they start playing teams that have a pulse.
Oh, for sure.
So although Michigan still has a couple weeks before that happens because they've got Michigan State and then Purdue. Michigan State a bye and then Purdue. It's the weakest schedule I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, I venture to say Penn State will probably give up 20+ next week.
Who do they have next week?
Ohio State.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the bye has a better chance of beating Michigan than some of the teams that they play. That's the problem.
That's true.
Eric with the super chat or the super sticker. Thanks, Eric. Appreciate it.
By the way, Zach Martin was correct. I mean, Al Golden has done a great job this year against mobile core. Like Clark Lee did a great job at Notre Dame. Great job at Notre Dame. But his kryptonite was a mobile quarterback. I mean, he made Juwan Pass look like Caleb Williams last year. You know what I mean? Like,
I remember
that. Always an issue. Al Golden, and this is what surprises me because he spent so much time in the NFL. Al Golden, from the time he got here, has done a pretty good job against mobile quarterbacks. Yeah. You guys remember the North Carolina game last year? And Drake May, that first series, had like 3 really good runs, and after that did nothing. And a lot of his game plan. Caleb Williams' runs last year weren't because of poor design. It was him running all around, making dudes miss 10 yards behind the line of scrimmage and then getting out.
Right.
He had a great plan against Riley Leonard this year. He had a great plan against Caleb Williams tonight. So he's done a really good job throughout his career at Notre Dame. There's been other issues I've had, but his game plans for the read stuff has been really good. Really
I heard someone said, they text me, and I don't know if it's true, but someone said that Jason Garrett mentioned that when he talked to Al Golden leading up to the game, that Al Golden said most of the game plan was very similar to what they did against Patrick Mahomes with the Bengals. I thought that was very interesting. I was like, okay.
Sense. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah, interesting.
But yeah, I mean,
makes me want to go watch those games now.
I know one thing, the situational football in comparison to last year, especially like the red zone defensively, night and day.
Yeah.
Night and day. They're so much better in situational football. So much better.
And USC scored on both, only had 2 red zone trips tonight, Sean, and they scored on both of them. But they forced a field goal the first time, and that was such a huge momentum shift. Like, that first drive they go down, and Vince, you and I looked at each other and said that. Like, that's a win. I said this on Thursday in the show. I said stops for Notre Dame in this game are forcing punts, turnovers, and field goals. Like, those are all stops to me in my book.
And they did a lot of those.
Because and the thing too, Sean, is they came into this game, they had converted 25 of their 30 touchdown of their 30. I think it was 25 out of their 30 red zone trips this year. Ended in touchdowns. I'm actually going to look that up. I believe that's accurate. Yes, USC was tied for first in the country coming into this game in red zone touchdown rate. They had gotten 30 red zone trips, so 5 per game, and they had converted 25 of those 30 into touchdowns. Now, the second they did have the red zone touchdown they had, but that 18 yards they needed to score took 5 plays. Right? And it took Caleb Williams running around and throwing a rope to Brendan Rice to even get that one.
Yeah.
And I think that was third down. I think that was a third down, I believe, when he made that play.
I think it was.
So they made him work for it. And that was the thing, is like, nothing was easy for them. It really wasn't. Just nothing was easy. And that was also in the fourth quarter. Yeah. It was. No, they had to convert a 3rd and 2. That was 2nd and goal from the 7 is when he made that play. So but still, it would have brought up a 3rd down. So hats off to the Notre Dame red zone defense tonight as well.
And your point that, turnover on downs, a turnover, field goal, those are all wins, right?
Yeah.
USC had 14 possessions in this game. They had 14 possessions. Notre Dame had 12 wins.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to win a lot of football games doing that.
11, right? Oh, no, because we said field goals count as wins. Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
12 out of their 14.
12 out of the 14 were wins. So,
huge.
Huge. Mick Leffert with the super chat. Thank you very much. Says, thanks, guys. You're right. Tonight is about enjoying the win. Great win. Nothing we can do about last week.
Absolutely. It's all about moving forward. You learn from what happened last week. You don't just ignore it and pretend it didn't happen. You learn from it and move on, and you can't keep dwelling on it. Right now, you just got to figure out ways to not make it happen again.
Yep. A Clayton 47 with the score super chat. Another one. Thank you very much, A Clayton. Awesome game. Can our defense play offense? We will be at Clemson. Mom and Pop Driscoll need to stop by our tailgate.
Yeah, I'll talk to him. Let me know where you guys are at as we get closer. So my parents got tickets. Well, I got them tickets to the game, and so be meeting them down there. So I'm looking forward to taking them to the Smoking Pig on Saturday before the game, because it's going to be a night game if I remember correct. Right? Isn't it supposed to be a night game?
Yes, it is.
So I'm really looking forward to going to the Smoking Pig on Saturday.
Sorry, Vince. It is
so
prime time ABC.
Hey,
the
this
good
bye
news
week,
is, Vince,
man, I need it.
The good news, Vince, is that since it's a road game, you and Ryan will be able to start the post-game show very quickly.
Yes.
So what's the name of this pig restaurant?
It's called the Smoking Pig. It's a barbecue place. And I was a little nervous about it because I heard great things about it. But I was a little nervous about it because it's in South Carolina, and it is Carolina. So I thought it was going to all be like the vinegar-based barbecue. And they have that as an option. But the thing that you could actually get the meat without like that stuff in it, and then you could pick the sauce you wanted in it, and it was really like I had the pork. I had a pork sandwich and then a beef brisket.
Yeah,
and it was just so moist and just like really just. And the other thing too is I don't like real fat. Like some place you go to, it's like real fatty pork. I don't really like that. I don't like a lot of fat in pork, and it was just a really clean, like there was no fat in it, but it wasn't dry. You know what I mean? Like a lot of times when you don't have a lot of fat in that stuff, it can get real dry. It's so good, and it's really well known place. But and it was really good, really good. That and Texas are the two best places I've eaten on the road. In Texas, we just found one of those little like trailer park looking things that have these big smokers on them, and it was just phenomenal. So good.
Oh no, go back to that one. We haven't done that one.
Sorry,
okay.
I'll find it, Vince. You
okay? I read it in my head, but I didn't read it out loud. So
I know where it's at, so I'll be able to find it.
Cool. Josh Phillips, thanks for the super chat. Defensive domination, great way to respond after the L. Agreed, Josh.
It was.
That was a great response. Honestly, this was the response I thought we were going to get last week.
Yeah,
but we got it this week.
Win.
So I guess better late than never. But you know, and I would rather, I guess, have it against USC because
I still want to know what happened to the team last week. That's the only thing is I just want to know what happened.
And I heard from a couple people that were down on the sidelines like during warmups, and they were like,
"Yeah,
this team's got no juice."
Well, Vince, I said that in the chat before the game. I put in the chat right before kickoff. I was like, I don't feel good about this game. Like, there's just no energy. The coaches didn't look like happy. The players didn't look like they wanted to be there. It was a little different tonight, but like it wasn't during pregame. I was like, "Oh my God, they're gonna kill this team." They didn't look like they looked last week, though. They were just it was a good normal warm up. Like they looked dead last week. It wasn't even just like I don't want a bunch of guys like jumping around and false enthusiasm before the game. For sure, I want you to be going through your business and getting ready
locked
for the game,
in,
all that, right? And it just was dull and slow and just lethargic and just scowls and coaching scowls, and it just was like, man, this team does not want to be here tonight. Like they do not want to be here tonight. And man, that was big. That was really big. Let's see here. This is the one from that we missed, right?
Yep, that's the one. Yep, Jonathan Burns with another score super chat. Thanks, Jonathan.
Love
really
it.
Appreciate that.
We need Notre Dame to start hanging some 60s.
I was just gonna say, man,
we need those y'all.
We need those big point totals again. Yeah. He says water will just taste better for the next 2 weeks. Go Irish. Yeah, man. Everything tastes better after a win, and especially going into a bye week.
Yep.
I love it.
That's the other thing about winning this game is because we can just kind of let it, just sit there.
Yeah.
And just kind of
enjoy it.
It's like when you have like a really good meal.
Yeah.
It's like I don't want to drink anything right now. I don't want to because I just want to leave this aftertaste.
Just sit back. Loosen the pants a little bit and just enjoy it.
Yeah, it's like I've never understood people that want to have like a sherbet or like a ice cream after a meal. Like cleanse my palate. I don't want my palate cleansed. I want to leave them ribs staying there for a little bit. Like, why do I want to wash this down? Like, what are you nuts?
I'm with you.
So yeah.
Kevin Fetters with a super chat. Thank you very much, Brian. You said it. Finally, Notre Dame took a Heisman away from a
Love
USC quarterback.
Yeah.
Well, this is
Love
the second time, right? They did the same thing in '88.
To Rodney Peete?
Rodney Peete ended up second.
No,
after
but
that.
but Sean, by that point in time, nobody but Barry Sanders was winning
That's
out.
that.
Like,
I don't know. A win over Notre Dame might have been.
Sean,
I don't know.
Barry Sanders had
Hey, I'm just telling you. I'm just telling you how
2,600
propaganda
rushing
works.
yards that year in 10 and 11 games. Like, he was a yeah.
And
Maybe a win would have meant something, but I don't know. I don't know, man.
That would have been a huge number 1 versus number 2. That would have been massive if he had pulled that off.
Yeah.
But you're right. Barry Sanders was Mr.
Yeah.
Everything.
I'm actually, what was the, I'm curious what the voting was that year. Heisman Trophy voting from 1988.
I think it was, he was second. Aikman was third.
Yeah. Pete was, So Barry Sanders got 559 first place votes. Rodney Peete got 70. Troy Aikman got 31. Steve Walsh got 16. Who are the idiots that didn't, like, over 100 voters did not vote for Barry Sanders? Derek Thomas from Alabama got 3 votes. Tim Rosenbach from Washington State got 6 votes, and 3 clowns voted for Tony Mandarich. What? Over Barry Sanders? Come on now.
Mr. Steroids himself.
Ridiculous. I'll tell you who was a guy that I loved watching play back then. Major Harris. And I'm going to tell you what's funny about it, though, is I just remember his numbers being better when I was a kid, but they weren't. He had 13 passing touchdowns and 7 interceptions.
Rodney Peete and Aikman only threw for like 2,700 yards.
It just,
like if you look at their stats.
Exactly. Pete was 26-54, had 18 touchdowns and 10 picks. Aikman had 25-99 with 23 touchdowns and 10 picks. Steve Walsh had 29 picks and 29 touchdowns and 12 picks. The game was different. But think of the legends, Sean, that were Heisman Trophy finalists that year. Top 10. Barry Sanders, number 1. Rodney Peete was number 2, not a legend. Troy Aikman, number 3, was Steve Walsh, Major Harris, Tony Mandarich, Tim Rosenbach. Number 8 was Deion Sanders. Number 9, Anthony Thompson. And number 10 was Derek Thomas, who's a Hall of Famer, whose life and career was cut short.
That's a pretty good group, man.
Heck yeah, man. Heck yeah.
I'd start my football team with all of them.
Yes.
All right. Patrick Fitzgerald with the super chat. Thank you very much. Xavier Watts. Any memories of a defensive player with this kind of performance?
Yeah, Harrison Smith against Miami in 2010. That's the last time I remember a defensive player just taking over a half the way that Xavier took over this game. I mean, really whole game. But remember, he had those 3 picks in that game. Stephen Morris was in Jacoby. Stephen Morris came in late, but it's Jacoby Harris. Those guys are having nightmares about Harrison Smith to this day.
Trevor Rocket from north of the border. Let's just enjoy this WIB Nation. Shout out to the D with all the sacks, tackles for loss, and turnovers. The boys whipped that team. Liked what I saw from the O-line tonight. Brian and Ryan and Vince and Sean, keep it up.
In fairness to Trevor, he put this chat up before you guys had joined the show.
That's why I added it.
Screw Sean and Vince. They
It's just not it's not a bad take necessarily, but I'm adding us in there anyway. I'm reading the questions.
Yeah.
All right. K Grant with the super chat. He just says, "Go Irish, man."
Appreciate you, buddy. Yeah, man.
Love it. Daniel Hoffman with the super chat. Thank you very much. Great win tonight. It really makes last week's sting all the more. I love and appreciate your guys' work. And BK is still a walking turd. Go Irish. Go IB. I just like the digs. They're not even subtle.
I know, not even kind of. They had a big win tonight. I mean, I expected them to have a big win tonight, but they had a nice blowout win over Auburn.
Ideen Benami, thank you for the super chat.
Benami.
Okay. LOL. Seems like the ND staff listened to the IB pod this week. Nailed this week like every other week, fellas. Let's keep battling Irish.
I mean, dude, seriously, like, especially defensively, it was like every single key to victory, like they hit on point. We're talking about they need to do more motions and shifts. I know Jesse was talking about that. They needed to run like a reverse. I'm like begging them to run reverse off of run action. They did that.
Play action, a couple shots. Chris Tyree.
Please get Chris Tyree the ball down the field. It's like, I think they might have been listening to the pod this week, man. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Just saying.
Not gonna lie to you. Yeah. We don't actually believe that, by the way.
No,
Anyone,
we
you
don't
guys
at all.
We don't.
And if they are just sitting back and listening
They
to the
need to be
podcast,
fired.
all
if
of
they're
them need to
taking
be
ideas
fired.
from our shows, they need to be fired, or at least pay us. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like, give me a little something.
I'm
You
good with
know,
that
take me out to dinner or something during a bye week if you're taking our
Right.
ideas,
Yeah,
which they're not.
No, they're not. JW, excuse me. Thank you for the super chat. Do you think Xavier Watts is getting some serious eyeballs from draft scouts after his performance? What a night!
Oh,
It takes
sure.
it takes more than one night.
Yeah, but this is the kind of game though that makes everyone go back and look at all the other games he's played.
Exactly.
That's what it does.
And they're only going to see good things from Agent Zero
for the most part. Yeah. No, he had a heck of a night. I mean, he's got what, 5 picks on the year now, or 4 picks on the year now. You know,
I mean, he was just all over the field tonight, and it was
great.
just so much fun to watch. All right, Tom Chris 2488. Thanks for the super chat. Golden stole Riley's lunch money tonight. Offense wasn't great, but did enough. But in the end, the defense is the MVP. Watts gets the game ball, but defense won the game.
He didn't steal his lunch money. No, that's underselling it. He broke into this man's house, tied him up, and made him watch as he stole everything that he has. Like, that's what he did tonight. That's
and
what
the
he did
look
tonight.
on his face on TV was that look right there.
That's
right. Like,
it was great.
That's pretty disrespectful there, Brian.
And it's factual.
It's pretty disrespectful.
I mean, Golden was disrespectful to Riley. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know.
To disagree, Mr. Davis?
Breaking in somebody's house and tying them up and
making him watch as you take all his stuff.
You might
autographed jersey of your favorite player. This is going to look good in my man cave. That's
why don't you have him kiss his wife in the mouth on the way out?
That's taking a little too far right there.
That's not you. I mean, you already went across the line. You might as well just.
That's taking a little too far right there. That would require some other responses a little bit, Sean.
Look, I am.
Go ahead, bud.
I am pretty positive that we really don't know. Like you said, he's a great offensive mind. I would agree with that. I don't know. Can I really judge his play calling when his quarterback for the last 2 years has been that dude and he does so much that's off schedule?
Yep.
Like he does, like he had a touchdown run tonight that was called back off a penalty, and it was just like, yo, he got to the second level, and it was like,
it was like bye.
Right. And it's like it's one thing to call a play, but then to put it in his hands and to look, I thought he was pretty good at Oklahoma. But if I'm being honest, just the last 2 years, I just don't really. Has it been more? I would be very interested. I don't think he stays once Caleb leaves.
Agree. Because I think he knows how the rest of the roster's not very good.
Yes. He did get one of the top quarterbacks, if I'm not mistaken, out of California.
That's freshman Malachi Nelson. But he's not Caleb Williams. He's not even close to Caleb
Williams. No. So that. It would be very interesting to see him take the challenge next year.
Yeah.
Of trying to coach one of those quarterbacks.
And not go get a portal guy, not go transfer guy.
Absolutely.
Sean, I love the guy's stuff. I mean, I just love what he does schematically. I love his play calling. I love his creativity. It's not all just Caleb running around, but it's like he did it with Baker. He's done with different types of quarterbacks. Like the offense he ran with Baker in 16 and 17 was a lot different than the offense he ran in 2018. He tailored it to Kyler Murray's unique skill. Then he had to tailor it again to Jalen Hurts' unique skill set, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, Spencer Rattler had a really good year in 2020, and then he's got Caleb the next 2 years, the next 3 years, right? So, he's had talented guys, but I just love the stuff that he does schematically. I think he has a really good feel for play calling. But it helps when you've got guys like this. Sure.
A perfect comp would be Andy Reid.
Yeah.
Andy Reid was thought of as a really good play caller with Donovan McNabb.
Mm-hmm.
Heck, he was thought of as a really good play caller with Alex Smith.
Yeah.
Well, you put those same plays in 15's hands, it plays out a little bit. The points per game goes up a little bit more.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, he's good for at least 10 points per game. I mean, you at least. But here's my thing, Sean. This is the issue: is guy had Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, Jalen Hurts, and Caleb Williams. He has 0 playoff wins.
Yeah.
I mean, like that's the thing. He's not a very good head coach. I keep saying he's not a very good head coach. He's a great offensive mind.
Mm-hmm.
Jacob Steely, thank you for the super chat. Props to Brian for going at it alone on his gut and experience to see Notre Dame had a real chance to win and predicting one.
Everybody on staff knew that Notre Dame could beat USC.
100%.
It was just more about how do I watch what I just watched the last 2 weeks and expect them to go win this game?
Almost exactly what I said. Yeah.
In fairness to my guys, that's the reason why they picked USC. It's like I can't watch that, and it's not just they didn't want to be there, and they're just going to immediately bounce back against Caleb Williams top 10. And the answer is, well, yeah, they are.
And they
but I didn't feel super great about my prediction. I'm not going to say like I knew they were going to win, and you guys are. I was like, I don't know. A buddy of mine called me and he goes, so how you feeling about tonight? I said, buddy, you've asked me this 5 times this week. I don't know. I have no idea what to expect from the football team. He goes, do you think they have a shot to win? I said, no, if Notre Dame plays their game, they could beat Ohio State. They could beat Duke. They could beat Louisville. They could beat USC. They'll pound. But will they play their game? I don't know.
That's
know.
And that's the biggest thing, right? Like my buddy always asks me, about over-unders and yardages and all those things because he wants to bet or whatever.
Sure.
I was like, I honestly have no idea.
Yeah.
I usually I go into Notre Dame games specifically with a pretty good idea about what's going to happen. You know what I mean? Not so much in this. I had no idea what was going to happen. And frankly, Notre Dame didn't put up great offensive numbers in this one. Still.
There were 2 things that made me, as the week went on, because I was fired up like everybody else on Sunday and Monday. And then by the time it got to Wednesday, I said, this team has Caleb Williams. They're undefeated and they're ranked 10th. And Vegas made them the underdog.
And all the big money was going to Notre Dame all week.
Because the points never went down.
Right.
The points never went down. It stayed at 3 and 2.5.
Yeah.
And I just, at that point, I felt like Notre Dame was better than USC as a complete team. That wasn't even my question. That was my thought. So it goes back to, like you said, Brian, if Notre Dame comes out and plays, they're better than everybody else on their schedule.
Yeah.
They're better than everybody else on their schedule. It's just a matter of execution, not making mistakes. And tonight they were good enough to overcome, like you said, some of the dumb mistakes on defense with penalties and
Sean, that to me right there is the thing, and Vince and I talked about this. It's just you didn't know what Notre Dame was going to do. There was never Tuesday. I was fired up. If you watch the show on Tuesday, I was fired up because I was like, dude, I've been breaking down USC film. Like, you can beat this football team. And then I started rewatching Notre Dame film. I was like, okay, never mind. So it just was back and forth all week, but it was never a doubt. And that same buddy that called me today, he's like, here's what I think. He goes, it's either a really close game, either team can win, or USC blows Notre Dame out. I was like, no. You need to throw in Notre Dame can blow them out too. Because he's like, no way. I was like, yes way. He's like, what makes you think that? I said, because if the Notre Dame team we saw the first month of the season shows up tonight, they will blow USC out. Because I've said it. And some people are like, no, you're crazy. I said, if Cam Williams is not their quarterback, they're at best a 4-2 team right now, at best. And they're a barely 500 football team over the course of the season, in my opinion. Like, that's just, I don't like this roster. I don't. And it's too much portal and all this other kind of stuff. It's not a great roster. It's just they have the best player in college football. And Notre Dame tonight didn't let him be the best player in college football. And we saw the result.
And you would think he would give his quarterback an offensive line. You would think.
Well, he's tried. I mean, he's had to go to the portal because he inherited a mess of an offensive line, and the only good players they had were 60-year seniors, right? I mean, so, and again, it's like you've got this horse. You can't just develop the young players who aren't that good. You've got to go out and get. And it wasn't a great portal class for offensive linemen, to be honest with you. There weren't a lot of great options out there.
Michigan took both of the Stanford kids.
Yeah.
Which are at the top.
Yeah.
And you're right. Yeah.
Kirk D.A. Anderson Fitness. Thank you very much. Unstoppable force. The USC offense met immovable object. The Notre Dame defense tonight. Immovable object 1. Go Irish.
Dominated.
Philip Berardi can't stress enough the importance of turning all 3 first half turnovers into touchdowns and not field goals. Built the lead and gave offense some confidence. I completely agree with that. It's huge. It took any kind of momentum USC ever had and just flushed it down the toilet and just fed Notre Dame. Just fed them, and they were eating all night long.
All night.
Every time, by the way, and I don't know if you could tell this on the TV copy, but every time after like the first turnover, every time the defense came back out on the field, like the crowd got excited. Like they were cheering and they were excited to see, man, what's this defense going to do next? You know what I mean? You didn't have that kind of hype around the offense, but around the defense, every single time they came out, everybody was like, okay, here we go. Like, let's see what happens. And they did not disappoint.
Hey, I want to give a big shout out to Notre Dame fans that were at the game tonight too, because we challenged Notre Dame fans. Sean, it was you and I think in the Monday show. We talked about you all need to step up for this team. Like, yeah, it's down and all that. And I understand you're all pissed and people are giving their tickets away and all that kind of stuff. But if you're going to be there, you need to step up for this football team. They need you to step up. And I got to tell you, man, the crowd was good tonight. It was really good tonight. And as soon as Notre Dame started playing well, they were really good tonight. But even like Vince, you and I were up there in the first quarter.
Yep.
Like they were good. They were buzzing. They were cheering their team. They were excited about the pregame stuff. And then when Xavier made that first pick, I mean, that place erupted, man. It was like you and I were even up there like, let's go. We were fired up. That's why we liked being outside at the beginning. Yeah, props to the crowd tonight for stepping up and
it was awesome.
Giving this team energy. Big time.
Yeah, it was awesome. Ryan Prout from north of the border. Thank you very much. Why was SC running the ball so much down 3 scores? Because they didn't know what to do.
Well, that's also who they are. I mean, the whole point is they're trying to catch you on a quick hitter because Notre Dame is just dominant on the perimeter. Like there was the one time, Vince, and it was late in the first half, and they tried to run that because they had spread the field and they tried to hit that real quick inside, just quick A-zone cut or A-gap zone cut, and Notre Dame just squeezed on it and ate it up. I mean, they're trying to catch you. That's what they're trying to do. That's part of who they are. It's like you spread out and we're going to catch you. What I thought was weird is they kept running a mess of play action in the second half. And it's like, that's not working, fellas. And I thought that was a mistake because that when he's doing this, Caleb's not able to as easily avoid the rush and get outside. Like that took him closer to the D-line. That didn't make a lot of sense. And then he's having to pull up quickly and get off throws. I thought that's the part I thought was even dumber. I was like, Notre Dame's not worried about your play action right now, guys. Like they're like, please hand the ball off. Like we're up 3 touchdowns. Please hand it off. But that's just who they are. But to your point, Vince, I mean, this is a team they were up on Colorado 34-7. I mean, they were down 17-0 against Arizona last week. But that was more than one of those ones where it was like, okay, it's time to play now, guys. We can step up now and make plays. But tonight it was like, yeah, problem is you're down 17-0 to a team that's better than you. That's the problem. That's the difference.
David Kirkpatrick, thank you very much. Receivers need more success to build confidence and to make motioning pre-play more effective. Overall, happy to see they came out pissed and focused. Like you said, Brian, big team win. Go Irish.
Huge team win. Huge team win. And I know the offense didn't play great tonight, but trust me, the defensive players are loving the fact that they turned their first 3 turnovers into touchdowns. They see that. They notice that, guys. Hey, we step up and make our plays. You guys are going to reward us and put 7 on the board. Like let that right. That stuff matters, man.
Yeah,
that stuff matters.
Absolutely,
it matters.
Because then the defense starts to get resentful of the offense if they can't
punch
We're
giving
it in.
You like last year, like last week. 7-7 at halftime. We force a fumble, and you guys go backwards and get a field goal. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, no, not tonight. Not tonight. We gave you
Yeah.
Fields and it
Exactly.
wasn't just the 13 and the 2, but the one they took for midfield after the Benjamin Morrison pick. They turned that into a touchdown. Like that's the one that I think to me is the one that can really spark a team. Like, hey,
Yep.
they got our back. They're not lighting the world on fire. But guys, when you have one of your possessions is 2 yards for a touchdown and one of your possessions is 13 yards for a touchdown, it's going to limit your overall numbers. I mean, it just is.
Matt S., thanks for the super chat. This is the best possible outcome coming off the last 3 weeks. Go Irish.
Big time, Matt. I'm with
Yeah.
you, man. Appreciate the super chat, buddy. Appreciate you.
Caleb Collins next up. Thank you very much. Great team win. Offense still has issues, though.
He just can't. Like he just can't just it's okay to just say it's a great win. It's a great win. Yes, the offense still has issues, but they just there's a lot of teams in college football events that would love to have issues on offense and beat a top 10 team 48-20. A lot of teams would love to be in that situation.
Cal with the super chat. Thank you very much. Thank you, coaches, for calming the board down.
You are welcome.
Go ahead. You say this one because I messed up his name.
Aiden Banami.
Awesome. Keep feeding
Aiden
Tyree.
Banami.
Something good always happens. I tell you right now, folks, that's the biggest gimme bet ever out there when they always have Chris Tyree and about like 33, 35 yards, something like that. That's one play. Take the over every time. Just take it. I'm just saying.
Yeah, because you're going to win more often than not.
Yeah,
he doesn't need a whole lot of
100%.
touches to get there.
Yeah.
He doesn't need a whole lot of touches.
Just take it. Take it and run, baby. You'll thank me later.
Boy. Yep.
D-Troll Hunter.
There you go. There you go.
As soon as it's late. I'm dying over here. Okay. D-Troll Hunter. Thank you very much. All been incredibly busy. Hope all are well. God bless and go Irish. Got to jump off, IB Nation. Well, it's good to see you.
Thank you for leaving a super chat, buddy. Appreciate you.
Zach Martin, thank you very much. Brian, you said Al could write his own check if he kept him under 17 for 20 points. What's the multiplier?
I mean, look, I said 17. He didn't get 17. So you know what? Sorry,
Fired.
buddy. Fired. No, look, he did a great job tonight. I mean, like seriously, like great job tonight. I mean, just a phenomenal job. Phenomenal job. I mean, and it's guys, it's not a one-time thing, Sean. It's not like he did a great job tonight. This defense has been doing this all year. I mean, they had a bad second half last week, partly because the offense just kept putting them back out there.
Mm-hmm.
But this defense has given you a chance to win every single week. I mean, he's doing a phenomenal job. I mean, he absolutely needs to be up for the Broyles Award, in my opinion, because it's just week after week after week. They've played 8 games. Half their opponents have been against top 25 teams. And, you know, this is the 4th straight game against an undefeated opponent. And his defense has been great. It's been great. It really has.
Trash. Thanks for the super chat. Trash. Great win. I know this is looking ahead, but I find it funny that Phil Dracovic will once again miss the chance to play Notre Dame. Let's go, Notre Dame. Well, if they come out in like 13 personnel, he's got a chance.
Is he playing at all at tight end?
I don't know. I think the coach
tonight.
actually.
Okay.
He played tonight.
Did he play tight end?
He played tight end tonight. Who else had a fantastic game tonight that Notre Dame fans will remember is Sebo Fleming.
Did he? Good for
had
Sebo.
a great game tonight. Great game
for Sebo.
tonight.
I have not looked at that box score yet, Sean.
He had a really good game for them tonight. I think he had a
That's
couple of
crazy.
touchdowns.
Good for
He went to
Sebo.
Pitt? I had no
Yeah.
idea. Okay. I
Yeah.
had no idea. Is that
All
where he
right.
went directly after Notre Dame?
Yeah.
Okay.
He was there last year too.
Yeah, I just was to say I didn't know if he went someplace else in the interim. I for some reason didn't click for me that he went to Pitt. All right.
Are you thinking maybe Jafar Armstrong? Or
Maybe.
because he went to Illinois and somewhere else?
Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sean
actually
O'Hara
wondering,
with
did he
another
seriously do
big super chat. W-dub for Watts. Amazing. Agreed.
Yeah,
Heck
he
of a
was
coming out
phenomenal.
party. That's
He
what
was
that
phenomenal.
Another one from Trash. Xavier with the Heisman pose. Cold.
Did he seriously do that?
I hope so.
I didn't see that. That'd be amazing. Be absolutely
hope so.
amazing.
I
Absolutely
hope he did.
amazing.
I would just like to say that every year it is proven how incredible the feat of Archie Griffin still is.
Yeah.
Like winning back-to-back Heisman, that's as a running back, that's insane.
Mm-hmm.
That's insane.
Yeah, I'm actually now looking to see if he did it. I'm watching the replay now to see if he did it.
Sean O'Hara with another massive super chat. This one was for you, Kevin Park. Enjoy.
Appreciate you, Sean. A couple big ones from Sean tonight.
Tyler Evans, thank you for the super chat. I was hoping to put 50 on him, and Caleb Williams' body language said USC is not winning this game.
No.
Well, 50 burger would have been nice, but I'll take winning by 4 touchdowns or whatever it ended up being. Like, that was yeah.
It's wild. I mean, when Notre Dame beats USC, when USC's had, I mean, seriously, with their best teams in recent years, Notre Dame is just absolutely pounded. It's absolutely pounded at home, anyway.
Correct.
At least at home.
Brian B with the super chat. Deuce Knight just posted, "Stay tuned, Irish fans. Let's go."
Text from Ryan. Some good stuff. Really good stuff. The fact that Carter, I've said all along, if Carter Nelson visits Notre Dame, they have a very good shot. If he doesn't, then but if they could get him on campus, and you'll have to read the message board post about why we couldn't report it for over a week, but it's a good sign.
I mean, read it. And
the performance these kids got to watch tonight doesn't hurt at all. At all. I mean, look. Because kids are going to look at the Louisville game as the anomaly. They just are. They're going to look at Ohio State, Notre Dame, and they're going to say Notre Dame gave Ohio State everything they could handle. One play away, and they barely scored 10 dudes on the field. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they had a bad night against Louisville, but this kind of game is needed, Sean, because from a recruiting standpoint, it takes, like in the recruits' minds and fans' minds, we're still going to be bitter. Oh, they should have. But in recruits' minds, it wipes away any potential for reservation about last week. When you come out and do a game like this to the Heisman Trophy winner, to Lincoln Riley, big bad Lincoln Riley, and you just, I mean, you bent him over your knee and spanked him. You know what I mean? Like, whatever adjective you want to use for what they did tonight, they pantsed him in front of the nation, whatever you want to do. Like, that's what happened tonight. And these kids saw that. And it just shows, like, hey, keep coming and play for Marcus Freeman, because once I get all my guys here, imagine what we're going to be able to do to these people. That's basically the selling point, Sean.
I mean, it really is. This was the next opportunity. Ohio State was the first opportunity to make an impact. And you probably made an impact in that loss, the way it went down. Like, kids still probably came away.
From talking to people, absolutely they did. Absolutely they did.
Kids probably came away like, oh, man, Notre Dame should have won that game.
Because of what their expectations are for Notre Dame. Not you and I. Like, you and I are like, no moral victories. But, again, that we're us, 40-something-year-old men who followed Notre forever. For kids, it's a different deal.
Yeah. And this is the next one. And honestly, regardless of how good or bad Clemson is, winning at Clemson at night,
if you can do it,
if you can do it, it's going to be, a feather in your cap, as they say.
Yeah. Oh, hang on a second, Vince. Trying to get to this next one. Here we go.
Davis TEN 4609. Thanks for the super chat. Offense wasn't great, but they capitalized on the opportunities. They did.
They absolutely.
They did what they were supposed to do. And Brian's favorite poster, Lord Dern.
There's no doubt. No, I don't know poster. I don't know the person.
Well,
one of my favorite
names
of
the
a
name.
poster.
Yes,
absolutely.
Lord Dern's Jurassic Park shorts. Thanks for the super chat. I think the Achilles is just fine.
Talking about Jadarian. I mean, look, I love Audric, right? This has nothing to do with Audric Estimate. Nothing to do with Audric. This is one of those when he leaves, but I'm just like thinking about, I'm watching Kedron Young highlights last night. And I'm watching what we know Jeremiah Love is, and then you look at Jadarian and you're like, dude, when these young kids are like dominating the backfield, like somebody said something on the board, like this running back room in the next couple of years is going to be the best they've had since the 90s. And I'm sitting there thinking, like, normally I would be like, that's kind of a crazy statement, but now I'm like, and I didn't even mention Aeneas Williams in this conversation or Jabron Payne, and you're like, I mean, that's Jerome Bettis, right? But you're like, yeah, maybe. Like, it's not an insane thing to say when you think about the potential that this group has. A lot to prove, but man, it's a talented group. And
I don't
Jadarian
know,
showed that
man.
last night, man. I mean,
Some
tonight.
of Lou's running back rooms actually pushed All-American running back to defensive back.
and Dorsey Levens to Georgia Tech.
Yes. Yeah.
Genius. Laura Dern's Jurassic Park shorts with another super chat. BMO tackled great. Cam was Cam, the best.
Yeah, Benjamin Morrison, like, we didn't really talk about it, but like I've had a roller coaster of emotions trying to thoughts trying to evaluate him tonight. Part of me would say like he didn't play that well, but then I'm like, well, no, he didn't play great, but I'm also thinking like, yeah, they caught some balls on him. Not a lot, none really for deep. He had a couple penalties. Yeah, cleaned that up. But he also forced a lot of incompletions. He had the pick. Like, this is what happens when you play against a receiving core like USC. They're going to catch some on you.
Mhm.
But you forced a lot of incompletions and short throws, and you had a big pick that resulted in a touchdown. So it's like, he actually played solid. And that tackle it was nice to see him tackling tonight because that's been a big problem for him this year. And, he had the huge tackle for loss, and he had a couple other good tackles, and just that was huge.
Was that Cam Hart that came up and put a nice tackle on like a quick screen?
Yes, earlier one on third down.
Yeah.
Just completely blew that up. Then
Yeah.
Benjamin had the one in the third quarter, Sean, where they tried to run like a little tunnel, and Benjamin just came up and just drilled the guy for a 4-yard loss. I'm going to read these next couple. Brian B with a super chat. He said for Vince.
Oh, thanks.
And then Lance Hab also had one for Vince.
Oh, that's awesome. That's probably from this week. I appreciate it, guys.
Yeah, so Vince, I owe you $11.99.
I'll
put it in your check. I'll put it in your check.
Justin Olson, thanks for the super chat. Was an usher in student section in 05 on field at the end and had to get the students in the Irish Guard off the field after the missed call on the backward fumble. That would have been me as well. I was on the field at that point. Seeing the kids storm tonight was great. 46-year-old me appreciates this.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
David Prevost with the super chat. Thank you very much. Was this the best defensive performance of all time in Notre Dame Stadium? Oh, how our memory fades, because I think against Clemson last year was pretty stinking good.
I actually think this performance was better relative to the competition.
The quarterback. Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair
the
enough.
Quality of the competition. And I still feel like Clemson was limited a little bit last year from the fact there was like 30-mile-an-hour winds, but like with all due respect, this is a way better receiving core, way better quarterback.
Sure.
Better offensive coordinator. But like, I mean, Notre Dame Stadium's been around since Newt Rockne was the coach.
Yeah, that's a lot of games to go through.
And, I'm sitting there thinking about the 1966 Notre Dame team that like literally gave up like 38 points the entire season. You know what I mean? Like, they had some pretty good. You want to hear something crazy? That year, Vince, they beat number 10 Oklahoma 38-0 and number 10 USC, different weeks. 51-0. Those were both road games. Isn't that crazy? And then what they said tonight is the 1973 team, which went undefeated, which had the guy that Loose Emoji has says the best defensive lineman he's ever seen at Notre Dame, had Ross Browner. It was a freshman team. Ross Browner and Willie Fry were great players. But that team outscored their opponents, they said tonight, like 380-something to like 80-something. Remember that? So yeah, I mean they've had some great defensive performances. I mean this to me is the best one in recent memory. I mean this was a heck of a performance, and for recent memory, this is one of the best. But yeah, there's been some others. I had certainly the best of the Marcus Freeman era when you look relative to the competition, Vince. But
sure,
I get what you're saying about Clemson. I do, because that was a great defensive performance. I just felt like tonight, relative to the competition, I'm actually looking up what the numbers were for Clemson. Here's the other thing that was better about tonight, Vince. Last year, Clemson had 281 yards of offense, 4.3 per carry. And tonight, USC had 302, but they only went for 4.1 yards per play. I said per carry, I meant per play. I'll say this. I think this team finished better than they did against Clemson last year, because Clemson got a couple late scores after it was up 28-0. And they both got points. They both had multiple drives. They both had turnovers that set the offense up. This one did 2. They did 1 last year. So it was close, Vince, but just this was a much better offense. And remember, Cliff Kingsbury is one of the offensive analysts. So they also have that genius working for their, in case you didn't see it, everyone, genius for Cliff Kingsbury on that staff too.
He has no say so.
Yeah. I'm not a big Cliff Kingsbury
Literally,
fan.
they were standing there in a timeout, and he was just
hanging out
there. Yeah, just hanging out.
That's what I would do with him. I'm not a big Cliff Kingsbury fan.
Laura Dern's Jurassic Park shorts again. Thank you. This is how it should have been. Great performance against this, empty feeling here. Help me, guys.
I mean, it shouldn't, bro. Like, live in the moment. This is what I'll say. Like, man, like the last week with all the stuff going on in our world and all the things going on and people just struggle. I mean, bro, they just won a football game against the number 10 team, 48-0. Just live in the moment. That's what I'll tell you. It's the best advice I can ever give anybody about sports. Live in the moment, right? Yeah. Live in the moment. And you can't do nothing about last week, right? Choose. My wife does this thing, Sean, where she picks like phrases like, that they're usually built around like trying to build her walk with God.
Yeah.
And a couple of years ago, she had one and it was one of the best years of our marriage. It really was. And we've had a lot of good ones recently, but her phrase was choose joy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a choice. It really is a choice. I mean, I know that there are some people struggling with like, you have chemical imbalances that create issues and you can't, I mean, I get that that's a real thing, but like absent of that, choosing joy it's a choice. It is a choice. I can choose to feel a certain way or react a certain way. Vince, you've gone through that. You know what I mean? Like after what you went through the last week, does the Louisville loss really matter? No. Right. But it doesn't mean that tonight didn't make you feel really good though. You know what I mean?
For sure.
So I'm going to live in the moment. And the moment is right now, Notre Dame just beat the crap out of USC.
I'm going to go to bed happy.
Yes.
Soon.
Yes. We're working through them, buddy.
It may be on the show. All right.
Oh, wait, hold on. Just don't snore, man. If you got to nod off during one of the answers, just don't snore.
All right. GFS, thanks for the super chat. I disagree about AG trusting his players. I think he just knew he had to match athlete to athlete for any chance. I think now he trusts them.
Well, I mean, he's not going to try to match athlete for athlete if he doesn't think he can match them athlete for athlete.
Because then you got to scheme around it. I mean, that's what coaches do.
Right.
So
no, I don't agree, because also he also did it against Duke. I mean, I understand where you're coming from. I understand point. I don't agree. I think the whole game plan showed me that he did trust his front four to beat the crap out of USC's offensive line.
Yeah.
He did trust Benjamin Morrison and Cam Hart to be on an island against their receivers.
Oh, yeah.
He did that against Ohio State as well. He said, I dare you to try to have Marvin Harrison beat my outside receivers. You know what? He couldn't.
He didn't. Yeah.
So now, does that mean he trusts every position? No. But I know he trusts Xavier Watts.
Yep.
And you saw that tonight. So, no, I disagree with that.
Xavier Watts is really good when he gets to play like that robber position.
Yes.
Because he did the same thing against North Carolina State. Like that is his niche. When he can come downhill and
when he can go after the ball, when he can attack the football.
Yeah.
Absolutely right.
Nate Gibson, thanks for the super chat. Can Golden and Freeman start calling the offensive plays also? Go home and paint your nails, USC. Go Irish. Go IB.
He got a lot in that one, guys. He got a lot in that one.
Petty, and I'm here for it, man.
Yes,
thank you, Nate.
Yes.
Just dripping.
He may really want to say FND tonight because they just whooped his butt.
Dude, enjoy the plane ride home, fellas. That's what I have to say.
Yep. Long plane ride home.
He took full responsibility post game.
Who did? Caleb?
Yeah.
That's what leaders do.
They spoke for like 10 minutes. I think Caleb spoke for like 6.
That's what leaders do.
Riley spoke for like 3. But he was
I'm going to say this, guys. I'm going to tell you this right now. And I could be off base here, but I actually kind of feel bad for Utah. I do.
Is that the next game?
Yeah, I do.
Where is it at?
USC.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Here's the deal. There's other issues, but you're going to get a pissed off Caleb Williams next week.
Yeah.
And an embarrassed Lincoln Riley against a team that beat them twice last year. USC is going to have a lot of motivation for this football game, in my opinion. We'll see, though. I'm going to read this one from Laura Dern's Jurassic Park Shorts.
Oh, she's back.
V Daddy, thoughts are still with you, buddy.
Appreciate that. Need the strength. Monsieur Khan, thanks for the super chat. My brothers, let's see. Louisville is greater than Notre Dame. Pitt is greater than Louisville. Notre Dame is greater than USC. Thoughts?
On the nights they played, yeah. I mean, like, do I think overall is Louisville a better team than Notre Dame? No.
Nope.
They were last Saturday, and that's and that's what football is, right? I mean, would I trade Louisville's roster for Notre Dame's? Not in a second. But last Saturday night, Louisville's a better team. It's simple as that. I mean, they were the better team. So, yeah.
John Arundel. Yep. Thanks for the super chat. ND won me a decent parlay tonight. Thought I'd give some back to the IB fellas. Love the FUSC. Thanks, John.
Do you guys remember the post-game show last year? That guy won like a big thing on a Notre Dame game, and he gave us like 100. He gave us like 99. Like,
that's right.
All right.
Thanks for sharing the
There you go. There you go.
Wicked Bronco Productions. Thanks for the super chat. Notre Dame has absolutely locked up the top 2 draft picks for the 24 class in, help me out, MHJ and CW. Watts, top 5
Marvin
individual.
Harrison Jr. and Caleb Williams.
Thank you. Watts has top 5 individual performances in Notre Dame football history. Morrison, best corner in college football. Offense answered when they had to.
Is it fair to say this thing, Sean? There's not a bigger Benjamin Morrison fan than me.
Since the time he's arrived at Notre Dame.
Since the time he committed to Notre Dame.
Yeah.
I love Benjamin Morrison. He's not even the best cornerback at Notre Dame right now. All year, guys. And like Cam Hart's been their best corner all year.
Yeah.
And Benjamin's playing very well. Don't get me. He had a bad week last week. The whole defense had a bad week last week.
Yeah.
Benjamin had an off night. Had a big pick tonight. He's playing well. Don't get it twisted. Cam Hart's been their best corner this year, Vince.
Because he's healthy.
Yes, exactly.
He's
That's the first time he's been healthy.
Sean, this is what he did like post North Carolina on until he got hurt last year. This is but all fans want to remember is the Ohio State touchdown and the North Carolina mistake.
Oh, you mean when he was playing like at 80%?
Right, because he had a hamstring. But since then, he has been a lockdown corner, and he just doesn't get enough. He doesn't get enough love.
I would just, from experience, Wicked Bronco. I said the same thing about Aaron Donald because I saw Zach Martin give him his lunch.
Yeah.
Head up. And I was like, oh, this dude, Aaron Donald, he's not all that. Yeah.
I remember that game.
Yeah. I think MHJ and CW are going to be pretty okay on the next level. Yeah, despite Notre Dame locking them down. I always, man, that's one of the funniest things I regret. Is calling Aaron Donald trash.
Didn't you do that on a show, or was that just in conversation?
No, this was just like years ago. Like he was playing, he had a bunch of hype. Notre Dame played Pittsburgh, and I'm like, this dude isn't all of that. He didn't do anything. And next thing you know, he pops up with the Rams, just killing the NFL. It's like, oh, he is good.
Hey, everybody's talking about. Everybody's talking about Louisville's loss tonight at Pitt. Props to Mike Elko. They went out and played NC State without Riley Leonard tonight and won 24-3. Like they went 4 of 12 thrown to football for 107 yards and won. Like he's a heck of a football coach. That's a good football team. Like, that is a good football team.
Wicked Bronco
that Notre Dame beat, by the way.
All right.
Wicked Bronco Productions with the super chat. We're flipping Carter Nelson after that.
Hope so. We'll see.
Benjamin Weiss. See you later.
Okay. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate you.
David Carpenter with the super chat. Quote, I guess I got to buy Al Golden another Ferrari, unquote. Sam Hartman. He did say that in the post game, by the way. He's like, and then he goes, I don't get paid enough. That's what he said. It was funny.
Those are expensive.
Tyler Misguided Passion. I always get this wrong. Binge? No, it's binge. It's binge.
Yeah.
I remember him saying that, I think. Okay, anyway, thanks for the super chat. Glad having Montana back at games. Love the interaction between Hartman and him.
Did you see Joe stand out to the locker room after the game as the players were going to the tunnel?
Mm-mm.
He looked genuinely happy to be there. Like he's bumping fists with like Sam Hartman and Joe Walt, and he just looked genuinely like they made him feel special.
Because he actually, that's exactly right.
I mean, and I get why he was pissed at Notre Dame. I get it.
So do I.
You know, the stuff with Kelly and his kid and all that.
Sure.
I'm just glad that's in the past. I'm glad they did what they did for him tonight.
Whatever
they did
to
big
repair
deal
the
that he
bridge.
was there.
Yes. Whatever they did to repair the bridge and make him feel welcome and loved and the way he should be.
Yeah.
Because you and I both know when you feel that way, it's a lot easier to mend those fences. So they did the right thing.
Especially when you have mature adults in the room.
Well, and now you took the words right out of my mouth.
Sure,
Sean.
a welcome change, isn't it?
It is. It is. Ryan Loftus, thanks for the super chat. Hell yeah, fellas. Pitt kicked Louisville's butt tonight, so this team isn't off the hook yet. Run it up. Wish Jesse and Sean were on now to chat. Go Irish. Oh, they will be. Don't worry. Laura Dern's Jurassic Park Shorts has been busy tonight. Thanks for another super chat. Don't get me wrong. FUSC, great win. Let it play out. Go Irish.
I need to get one of those shirts with IB on it, with the thing about USC on it. I don't think my mom and dad would like that very much, but I just feel like I should have one. I should have one for Sean. Get one for Sean he can wear after Notre Dame beats USC.
No, actually, the first piece of apparel I bought on the USC campus was a UCLA shirt.
Okay.
It was the first time we went in the bookstore. She was like, I gotta have it. So those shirts are pretty popular, no matter where you go.
I have one that says USC on it.
Yeah.
And it's like a thing where you like have to take the shirt and you have to like fold it like this, and then it says the bad word.
Oh,
Yeah,
gotcha.
It's one of those.
I wouldn't
kind.
put the bad word on it. I just would have F.
Well, I mean, it doesn't look like the bad word if you're just wearing it. You got to like
Yeah.
manipulate it. So, but anyway,
Because it was all the what was that, the Muck Michigan shirt?
Yeah.
something
That was pretty popular.
Yeah.
Another true sentiment that I subscribe to.
Oh, well, facts. Matt, 2011 GT, thanks for the super chat. Thanks, guys, for getting us through the last week. Al Golden brought that nail polish remover with him tonight.
Oh, well played, man. Well played. No, I actually don't think Al Golden brought it. I think Riley Mills brought it, is who I think. That's why Riley was around him so much tonight. He wanted to make sure he could get all of it off. So, yeah.
Monsieur Khan, thanks for the super chat. Brothers, what's going to happen to Parker? Go Irish. Nothing
He's going to go out this week and study self-scouting and get ready to go put some points on the board against Pitt, right?
Yep.
Guys, I mean, they did a nice job tonight. Wasn't great.
Yeah.
They did a nice job tonight. They got some confidence back. They did what they needed to do. They turned, three turnovers into 21 points when the game was in doubt. I mean, it's a nice point. Wasn't a great. They didn't bounce back like the defense bounced back, but they bounced back. Now it's about get better next game, and then get better to the next game and keep building. That's going to be the key. So that's got to what's happened. Now, if that doesn't happen, we can reevaluate in the offseason. But right now, that's your OC. He did what he needed to do tonight. His offense scored a whole lot more points than Lincoln Riley's offense. So we'll just keep moving.
Yeah.
Just Your Ordinary Joe, thanks for the super chat. I haven't seen Just Your Ordinary Joe in a long time.
Yeah,
What's up,
he was at
Joe?
the game tonight, Vince. He was at the game tonight.
Gosh,
Yeah.
I didn't know. All right,
Yeah.
awesome, man. At one point, this started to feel like a good old-fashioned whooping. It felt like that for a lot of the night.
It really
to be honest
did.
with
I mean,
you. I was just always afraid the other shoe was going to drop. That's
second
all I was
quarter,
worried about.
Vince, when they picked Caleb off, we looked at each other like they got to punch this one in. when they punched that one in, that was the first time I felt like they might roll in this game.
Yeah.
Because USC had no answers. I mean, I was just like, and then when they came out the second half, wasn't it the so like the first drive of the second half, USC comes out and goes backwards. You know, like they had a quick option went incomplete. I think that was the one that
they
Cam
did.
Hart,
3 plays for negative.
was
4
that
yards.
the one that if he would have just got tipped a little bit more, Cam might have picked 6 that one? Was that one?
Yes.
Yeah. Next play, Benjamin just blows up a now screen, and then the next play after that's the one that Jalen Seed almost picked off. So it was like first drive, second half, they were like, nothing's changed, fellas. Nothing's changed. And that's when I was like, okay. And then a couple times I thought, got a little nervous, and they answered right back. I mean, that was a good old fashioned whooping. That wasn't this what makes this game different to me than Clemson, because Clemson was like the offense didn't really play that well either, but like they were one dimensional. This tonight they made plays in both areas, and it was a better team in my opinion, at least a better quarterback. I don't know if I'd say better team. Certainly a better offense.
Wicked Bronco Productions with the big super chat. Thank you very much, guys. I'm so glad we have a bye week. Almost definitely
I most definitely.
Oh, there's 2 eyes. I wasn't sure what that was going to be.
Yeah.
I most definitely messed up my hammy real bad storming the field. LOL. I know it's only been 6 years since I last played football, but dang, my body's fragile.
I haven't played football in 20 years. I don't want to hear it.
I
pulled a hammy just thinking about somebody storming the field.
No. People laughed at me for saying ND would win by 14 plus. Well, I understand why they laughed.
I mean, I can understand why people laugh at you.
Yeah.
I mean, they watched last week's game.
If I would have put a prediction out there that Notre Dame wins by 2 or 3 touchdowns, people would have been like, dude, you're not even watching football.
Homer.
Like, you're just
Homer.
That's a
now they would have called you a
pick.
freaking genius in the Nostradamus after the game.
Sure.
But you'd have understandably caught flack beforehand.
Yeah. Absolutely. No doubt about it. Another one from Wicked Bronco Productions, man. He must be laid up with some ice on the hammy with his wallet open. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. I find it hilarious that people on ESPN and Fox picked USC because, quote, they're going to score 40 plus on Notre Dame guaranteed, and ND will be lucky to score 20 and won't keep up. USC couldn't keep up with us. 11-2, New Year's 6 W versus Brian Kelly or Ohio State.
I'm gonna tell you all right now, Ohio State's gonna be in the college football playoff.
They are
prepared for that.
And I mean, I'm sorry. I mean, you can find it hilarious, and that's cool, but that's actually not terrible analysis. Now, they didn't give Notre Dame's defense a whole lot of respect by saying that.
Yeah, I think that's actually terrible analysis. If somebody actually said that they were guaranteed going to score 40 on Notre Dame, I'd have been like, have you not watched this defense all year? Like, they played the worst game they've had all season, and they gave up 33 last night to a team scoring 36 a game.
But the second part is because they watched the last 3 games.
Right. I'm okay with people picking Notre Dame to lose this game. I mean, I didn't, but I picked them to win by 3 and didn't feel great about it. I got no problem with people picking it. If somebody said that they were going to blow Notre Dame out, that would have been that's a bad analysis to me. That's bad analysis to me. So, yeah, I just can't go there.
I think McAfee was the only one that picked Notre Dame.
Okay.
The punter. He pretty much said the atmosphere. He expected a crazy atmosphere that would help.
In the last time Pat McAfee watched Notre Dame in person, he watched them go toe-to-toe with Ohio State for 60 minutes.
Yeah.
I didn't hear that, so I don't want to respond too much to
it. He was at the Duke game as well.
Was he? Okay.
Yeah, because the game day was there, yeah.
Okay. Oh, that's right. They did back-to-back weeks. That's right.
Yeah.
Hunter Hall, thanks for the super chat. What's y'all's realistic thoughts on this college football semifinal next year and year 4 winning the national championship?
It's possible.
I mean, look, anything's possible.
If Marcus Freeman can figure out, there's still some things he's got to figure out. As a guy who's barely year and a half into his head coaching career. But the one thing about it, guys, talent acquisition is king. And Marcus Freeman knows how to acquire talent. I mean, along with Chad Bowden and the staff, that's not an issue. So, yes, I mean, it's possible. They got a lot of work to do.
Next year, the 12-team playoff, they got to win 2 playoff games to be in the Final Four.
Yeah.
So There's
Well,
that.
yeah, but what he said, yeah, that's semifinal may be tough. They're going to be a very, very young team next year. We'll see, but it's not out of the question. And we don't know what portal guys are going to get. It's not out of the question for me. I think there's a greater chance they win a title in year 4 than they go to the semifinals next year, in my opinion, as I look forward to what the roster is going to look like in 2 years.
Matt Norton, thanks for the super chat. Caleb Williams, much like Sam Darnold, USC overhyped quarterback that got cooked against a legit defense. Also, Watts clearly hates USC as much as all of us.
Well, I'm digging the Xavier Watts thing, but I think it's
not overhyped, man.
It's incredibly misguided to call Caleb Williams overhyped. Notre Dame did a great job against him tonight. But that's a darn good quarterback. He's a darn good quarterback.
He still had over 700 yards or 700 pass attempts and only 6 interceptions before tonight.
So last USC has gone 11 and 6. So what are they? 17-4 since he got there, and that's and I've said this before. It's a very mediocre roster.
Mm-hmm.
You take, I said this last week. I said it before. You take Caleb Williams off that team, they're a barely 500 football team this year. So no, he's not overhyped. He was a one-man show. Well, I'd say it's like him and a couple of his boys against 22 Notre Dame guys. I mean, that's basically what it comes down to, right? I mean, No, he's not overhyped. Look, and honestly, if you call him overhyped, to me, it takes some of the sting. It takes away from the job Notre Dame did tonight. Like when you call a guy overhyped, then to me, it's like, well, yeah, it doesn't mean as much that they dominate him because he's not that good anyway. No, he is that good, which adds context to how phenomenal this football team played tonight, Notre Dame's defensively. Like, because he is the best player in college football. I'm not going to say it because that would have been a shot. But, yeah, if Caleb Williams wanted to play quarterback at Notre Dame, I'd say, come on. If he wanted to transfer here next year because he didn't want to go to the NFL, wanted to make a lot of money, and he thought he could do it at Notre Dame, I'd say, come on, brother. Come on down.
And the fans in the chat would do the same thing.
Oh, 100%.
That's why the hate is laughable to me.
Right.
It's laughable. Like,
he's not overhyped. He's a phenomenal player on a mediocre team, and Notre Dame kicked his butt tonight. And that says more about Notre Dame than it does about Caleb Williams, in my opinion.
Right. Because I feel like if you feel that strongly about him being a jerk and all of those other things, then don't want him to be your quarterback. Sure. Unfortunately, like Brian said, if he chose to come here, you would take him in a heartbeat.
Oh,
So that lets me know your feelings really aren't that strong. Because if you were that principled, you wouldn't want him here as your quarterback.
Yeah. It's okay to say, that guy's really good. We kicked his butt.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, we kicked his butt.
Yeah.
And you know what it felt like? It felt like, Sean, you'll appreciate this. It felt like the Celtics against the Bulls in the 80s. That's what it felt like tonight. It's
okay, I don't know where you're going with this, but
one great player on a not very good team getting dominated by a much better team.
But by 5 Hall of Famers, 4 Hall of Famers. And
right. It's like
yeah.
Jordan could never beat the Celtics.
Yeah.
Right? But he never had the team around him. Now, I mean,
or the Pistons for that matter.
Right. Until later. He eventually beat the Pistons, but he literally never beat the Celtics in the playoff. I don't think he ever won a game against the Celtics in the playoffs.
No.
But it's kind of like he scored 60-something in the game one time and they still lost.
60,
right? Like, you know, it's like John Elway in the Super Bowl 3 times. Well, John Elway's overrated. Why? Because he went 0-3 in the Super Bowl. Do you know how mediocre those 3 teams were that he took to the freaking Super Bowl? This is my favorite one. Vince, you'll love this. Well, yeah, he got to give him this player before he could finally win a Super Bowl. I'm like, yeah, that's kind of how it worked for every other guy that's won a freaking Super Bowl. You know what I mean? Like, who are the guys that are like winning Super Bowls with mediocre bad players? You finally give John Elway at 38 a really good team around him, and he can win a Super Bowl, right? Like
you didn't like Steve Wilhite, bro, and Steve Watson.
Gerald Wilhite. Yeah. You went to 2 Super Bowls with Sammy Winder. You know what I mean? Like. Ricky Nattiel leaves John Elway and he's out of the NFL in 2 years. You know what I'm saying? Like, guys, you know, look, I love the shade at USC, but and I enjoyed beating Caleb Williams because I I did find what he did last year incredibly disrespectful. That's where I'm with you, Vince, on that one. Is it was incredibly disrespectful and immature. And unfortunately, it has clouded what overall is a pretty good kid. But I'm not going to lie. I enjoyed watching him get beat around tonight because of that, but also because he's good. You know what I mean? And it says a lot. That's why I'm so fired up about how the defense played, is because of how good I know him to be. And I thought they were going to win because he plays great, but the whole team is better. But man, they dominated him tonight. That was amazing.
We didn't do that one that you just had up.
Okay, go ahead and go to Raymond's, and I'll pull that. I thought we did. I got to stop doing that. I got to stop clicking on to the other one before we're talking about it. Here we go.
Raymond.
Here we go.
Oh,
no, we got this. I found it.
There we go. Patrick James. Patrick James with a big one. Thank you, Patrick, very much. 48 for the Irish. Was that not the second most points this season? I'm enjoying my scotch better than last week. Thanks.
I bet you are.
D.
Yeah, it is their second highest total of the season. They scored 56 against Tennessee State, 45 against NC State, 42 against Navy, 41 against Central Michigan. So, yes, this is their second highest output of the season.
Sweet.
So, in second highest output of the last 2 seasons, actually.
Okay.
So, yeah. The last time they scored this many points against an FBS team was when they scored 55 against Georgia Tech late in 2021.
All right.
And that was a bad Georgia Tech team.
Raymond Tittman, thank you very much for the super chat. What's your favorite stat of the night? 5 turnovers, 6 sacks, or 11 tackles for loss? It's turnovers for me.
How about you, Sean?
The 48 points.
Yeah.
I don't care how they got on the board.
Yeah.
The 48 points. Of those stats, though,
yeah.
For me, because I wasn't on board with that sacks don't matter narrative. And I think I said with you Monday, this is a game where sacks matter. Like, you can talk about that defensive efficiency and just pressuring quarterbacks. Pressuring him is not good enough because he's talented enough to get outside, still make plays.
You had to bring
Get his tail on the ground. You had to get him on the ground. And they did a fantastic job of doing that.
To me, they all build on each other. The tackles for loss leads to sacks. The sacks lead to those two things lead to turnovers. They do. Like Vince, you pointed this out. The first interception, he misses an open guy. Why? Because they pressured him.
Yep.
Right. But to me, the turnovers is, if I could say which one had the biggest impact on the game, it's directly speaking, it's the turnovers. I mean, those set up points. Your first turnover, you get the ball at the 13-yard line. Your second turnover, you get the ball at the 2-yard line. Your third turnover, you get the ball at midfield. Your fifth turnover, you just handle your business yourself and take it to the house. Last one, Vince, and then you can leave and go to bed, buddy.
Thank you. Wicked Bronco Productions with another one. The wallet is still cooking. Caleb and USC are both softer than Sharman. Ultra soft. He gets taken out of the game with 5 minutes left. We kept Hartman in, and you go out, take your beating like a man. You can't talk all that smack, paint your nails, and hide.
All right. Now we're just getting a little
decision.
This isn't even petty. This is just like,
and there was no way they were coming back at that point. Like there was.
Well, first of all, it's not his decision.
It's number one. And that's what I said first.
And if you're a coach and your team's now down 48-20, and you throw your Heisman Trophy contender, who if you lose him and your offensive line's been getting dominated, you have no chance. They might not win another game if they lost Caleb. With the schedule they have coming up.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
And it was clear that Notre Dame's defense wasn't going to stop playing.
No, they got Utah, Cal, Washington, Oregon, and UCLA. The only team that they could maybe beat without Caleb Williams is Cal. That's it. So, he took his beating like a man because he got up every time.
Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure.
We don't need to go to.
I don't have any issue
pettiness,
with that.
but now we're taking it a little bit. First of all, USC as a team is soft. Yes, they are. Caleb Williams is not soft because he kept getting up and he did take his beating like a man because he kept battling and kept playing.
I wanted him to take Hartman out, to be honest with you, on that last drive. That's what I wanted, but
for the same reason. You don't take
for the exact same reason.
It's 48. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exact same. I don't need him tripping over a guard's foot or
I
something
think for me,
stupid.
part of it was just Coach Freeman having we're going to finish this mentality. I think that's
fine.
you know what I mean? And
Yeah,
I think
I
maybe
get
that's
that.
the lesson to learn because he's always been willing to take his guy out. I think there was got to finish. Sometimes it's about teaching lessons, but I'm with you, Vince. I'd have taken him out there at the end. But yes, USC as a team, they're soft.
Sure.
I mean, that's been Lincoln Riley's MO. That he's always had pretty soft football teams, especially on defense. I mean, this guy just thinks he just thinks you can go out there every night and score 50. But the problem is the nights that you have off nights on offense and everybody has off nights, you got no chance because you don't put enough emphasis on defense.
Last one, again, from Wicked Bronco Productions. Thank you very much. Minute I saw USC players wearing winter coats and ski masks, I knew it was a wrap. There's a reason why they haven't won in the Bend since 2011. USOFT. We need to have a serious discussion about Lincoln Riley being a fraud as the head coach.
All right.
I don't think we need to have that discussion.
You've kind of jumped off the deep end a little bit. Like Lincoln Riley is an overrated head coach. There's no doubt about that. But fraud, look, guys, when you've been a head coach for 7 years,
record. He's got a good
when
record.
you've been a head coach for 7 years and you're 72 in a Power 5 league, and your record is 72-14.
And 3 Heisman Trophy winners, I believe, right?
3, yeah, because Caleb, 2 at Oklahoma, 1 last year. And, look, is he overrated? Absolutely he's overrated. But now we're kind of jumping to another extreme. And I think he's an overrated head coach. I've said that a million times. But a fraud doesn't, a fraud is Larry Coker winning a title in his first,
right, because he won,
year, right? Yeah. Then going to town, he's a fraud because he's not that good of a coach. He basically, thank you, Butch Jones, for building this, and my job's not to F it up. Right.
But then he continued to prove that he was a fraud the rest of the way, of his head coaching career.
And let's not forget, Lincoln Riley inherited a team that went 4-8 the year before he got there. 4-8. Somebody just said in the chat, yes, Brian Van Gorder's a fraud. Yes. Lincoln Riley's overrated. There's no doubt as a head coach, but a fraud he is not. You don't coach that long and have that much success if you're a fraud.
Agreed.
You just don't. His worst year so far is 9-2 during the COVID year. He's had 1 finish outside the top 10. That was last year because they lost the Cotton Bowl. Is he overrated as a head coach? Yeah, he is. I don't think that's debatable because the further away they got from the Bob Stoops era, the worse they were. But their worst was still 11-2, 9-2. It's still pretty good. So yeah, he's overrated. But I mean, I didn't notice guys wearing ski masks and winter coats and all that. I didn't.
Yeah, well, I think Lloyd had on a little
mask. Running back had one.
He's from DC.
A bunch of the receivers
got
used to that LA weather, baby. Come on now.
Bro, you got that bad. And I'll say, in all fairness, though, I grew up in Ohio and I've always hated the cold. I mean, some people I just hate being out in the cold. I hate being out.
I'll say this: the one thing that you just said that made me, those teams in Miami were so good.
Mm-hmm.
Larry Coker almost ended up with 2 national championships, bro.
And the fact he didn't is because he was a fraud.
I mean, the ref throwing that late flag.
It should have never been that close, Sean. It should have never been that close.
I mean, the knee injury to who was that? Willis McGahee early in the game. That they had to adjust.
And then it was Napoleon Kaufman injury back in 92, 93, 94 on Monday Night Football. Those are 2 worst knee injuries I've ever seen.
And that's not his fault. It's not his fault that Sean Taylor picks a ball off and then just allows himself to be stripped. I mean, it was just one of those quirky games. But yeah, just the fact that he was even in position to win 2 national championships is, and he's not a good coach.
Yeah. No, he's not. Yeah, Lincoln Riley's an overrated head coach. He's a great offensive mind. He's not a fraud. Is USC soft? Yeah, I think USC's a little soft. I'm not going to lie. I do think that. But, yeah, I didn't see that. I still remember, you guys remember when they played Miami back in 2010?
and those kids down in San Antonio, they were playing down in El Paso, which is gets really cold, and they came out with like they all had like those white, masks on, and I'm like,
when
Michael Floyd's out there like with like a, a cut off shirt and pregame, and it's just like y'all are done.
That was over when Miami walked out, no doubt, because nobody was expecting snow down there, and El Paso had no idea how to deal with it. Like, that was a whole thing.
Yeah, Miami was not ready for that. They did not want to be there, and the Notre Dame players were like, "Nah, we got this."
They were hitting up like their local Dick's Sporting Goods probably for all those head warmers and everything. Like, they didn't pack that stuff from Miami. No chance.
I still remember one of my favorite recruiting stories is when Corey Minor was on. Didn't you guys have him on your show recently, Sean? Or Corey Minor?
Mm-hmm.
And did he tell the story about what his mom said to him when he was on campus on his visit?
I think so.
And he was like, he didn't really want to go. He's like, it's too cold. And his mom was like, I can buy you a jacket. I can't buy you a Notre Dame degree. Basically, is what he said. You know what I mean? But it's
Mama ain't
but
wrong.
You have
on
that. You'll have kids that'll go to college up north and be like, I've never had to buy a winter coat before. They're completely unprepared for it. It's like, man, you gotta go get you a coat, man. Like I had that at Defiance. We had kids that came up. We would recruit kids from Florida, and they'd show up and they didn't have any winter gear, and we're like, let's head over to the sports store and get it done. So anyway, well, hey everyone. So we had over almost 80 super chats tonight, guys. So thank you all so much for that. Appreciate you all so much for that. But Vince, why don't you take us out of here, man? Because we are wrapped up.
I'm ready. So thank you everybody for joining us on a little IB after dark, like way after dark. I think it's morning now,
almost light.
But you know what? We get to celebrate a huge win over Southern Cal, and it's always worth the time to do that. So huge win for Notre Dame, and I don't care what happens. What's happened in the past. This was a huge win tonight. This was the win, and it was great. And Notre Dame answered the call. They answered the bell.
It's time to build on it.
It was 100% time to build on it and move forward. So make sure that you guys. What?
Do you want to just make the executive call now to do the upon further review on Monday, since there's no game to prepare for, or do you want to still try to do it tomorrow night?
Why not? Let's do it Monday. That's fine. Yeah, let's do it Monday.
Because with your thing going on tomorrow, I think it might make.
I appreciate that. It's the twins' birthday, baby. We got to go celebrate. So I'm excited. I got 2 14-year-old daughters now, Sean.
I'm praying for you, bro.
I appreciate that.
I'm praying for you.
Believe me, I will take every one of them. All right. All right, man. Everybody hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, because you never know, because we just now moved the show that we normally do on Sunday nights to Monday night. You don't know that unless you hit the notification bell, people. All right. So please do it. Tell your family and friends about it, because IB Nation is strong and it is loved and by me as well. So, all right. I think that's going to do it for us, everybody. Man. So Notre Dame wins 48-20. Great win over Southern Cal. Love every second of it.
Can you just say that one more time, Vince? Just say it one more time.
Notre Dame wins 48-20. 48-20.
Over
Southern Cal. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
I'm getting no sleep tonight.
Oh, I am
right now.
I promise.
I'm gonna go watch. Vince, you've been sleeping half the last hour. I'm gonna rewatch the game again right now. I'm ready for another hour, baby. Let's go.
All right. Hey, you do you, buddy. Everybody.
Show.
I'm out. I'll talk to you guys later. Have a great night. For Sean, Brian, I'm Vince. Deuces.
Take care, everybody. Guys, I'm going so